This is what I walk into today, Chris. He just announced, Greg Cody, your father, just announced, I have no headphones as they're counting in 5, 4, 3, 2. And he got lost on his way here into the studio, even though he spent last night in the hotel. So he.
I got a panicked phone call.
This doesn't fit anywhere.
Okay, all right, it fits.
Take that off.
He can't hear me right now.
Yeah, he
I'll
can't
help
hear
you.
you.
This hotel is tricky, by the way. I'm with
It's to
Greg.
your right,
Yeah.
Greg, like down to your
The
right.
place that it always is, Greg. The place
He
that
can't
it's.
hear me.
He can't hear you. That's right.
It doesn't fit anywhere.
Okay, thank you, Billy. I appreciate it. So, why, Chris? Why did he get lost? Why did he stay in the hotel?
Billy.
I walked in on him just generally discombobulated, while Stugotz told him that he was somewhere recently with Zach Thomas and that he was more famous than Zach Thomas because people were chanting his name. I don't know the setting. I don't know what I was walking into here.
I was telling Greg that recently I was on an airplane sitting across the aisle from Zach Thomas, and I did not recognize Zach Thomas. I didn't know it was him. And the people were coming on the plane, and I got 3 stews. Zach Thomas got nothing.
That's crazy.
Zilch. And I think he enjoys it. I'm serious.
That's great.
Yeah, Zach would rather be anonymous. He would be.
Yeah. He spent his career like that, playing middle linebacker, not being Brian Urlacher, getting 1,000 tackles and taking 10 years to make the Hall of Fame.
I didn't realize you were going to take out Zach Thomas.
Is there bad blood here? What's going on?
No, I love Zach Thomas.
Oh, I can tell.
He's been on the Greg Cody Show podcast several times.
I think
we love him.
You're crushing the voters there because the voters put Brian Urlacher right in.
Yes, thank you.
Zach Thomas had to wait 10 years. You're taking a shot like if his name was Brian Urlacher, he would have been in.
No, I milked that for like 3 columns because I was pushing
More
for the
than that.
game for years. And you do a comparative of his career stats and Brian Urlacher's, and Zach Thomas has the upper hand. It's ridiculous that he isn't seen as Brian Urlacher, except his teams famously were mediocre.
I agree with the name thing.
Multiple times on
cooler
your
name.
on your show, Greg. What out of 100, where did he land on your top guests of all time?
That's a good question, Billy. He was stout. He was in the middle somewhere.
Number 54, maybe?
That would have been great if I'd thought to do that. That would have been terrific. Yeah, nice knowing his number, by the way. Most don't, I'm sure, especially those people on the plane. They have no idea.
What's wrong with your voice?
I know.
Is this still the cruise that's in your voice?
It's after last night's event, we went by an unnamed local bar. And
What event?
I might have hit it pretty high. I went to an acting class, Dan.
Did you really?
Yeah, I'm not.
Wow.
Most people know that I was in a major motion picture in the early 80s, Absence of Malice, but I'm not content. I believe in life you got to grow. You got to inch forward. You got to move. You got to advance.
Gotta want to know, gotta want to grow.
Yeah, exactly. I want to know. I want to grow. I want to learn. I want to earn. And so I find myself last night.
Let's start the show.
Among amateur actors.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but man's keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
You were saying, Greg Cody?
Oh, I hate to talk about myself, but it came up that I was in an acting class last night, even though I've appeared, in a film I was among beginning actors, which was refreshing for me.
And you stayed in the hotel in order to have an immersive training in method acting? Like you stayed, I can't believe that at 70 years old, I don't think a lot of 70-year-olds are staying away from their house in the same city.
Wait, were you teaching the class? Or
No.
were you a student?
I was a student.
Oh.
But,
You could teach the class, though.
He was in a movie.
yeah, what can I tell you? I mean, like I say, I want to immerse myself in learning. I want to learn. I want to earn. And so I was in a class. It was very enlightening. The instructor, I don't know what you'd call an acting instructor.
You nailed it.
She was excellent. She opened my eyes to stuff. When I was in Absence of Malice, Sidney Pollack, the acclaimed late, great director, didn't have a lot of personal dealing with me. I dealt with sub-directors. And so this time I felt like I was with a real acting coach, and she was great.
You have an issue right now that has afflicted me before as I initially started trying on glasses. It's fogging up on your right eye. As you say, you've had your eyes opened because I think the glass is a little too close to your face, and there's something about the weather in South Florida that makes glasses that are too close to your face.
It's the coffee. He has the steam going up his face while he's drinking it.
That's a good point. By the way, you all make a note, Dan. Meadowlark needs to spring for coffee sleeves, because when I first started drinking this coffee, it was almost too hot to pick up, but now it's fine.
That's, I'm slip and fall, burns your lap, all of a sudden, boom.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
Easy street.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. Very good. Good coffee, though. I got to say it. Christopher was supposed to get me some brand name coffee outward, and he reneged on his deal. And so I'm left with whatever brand this is.
Your voice sounds like it's been battered by the sea.
He had acting class, Dan.
Were you yelling in acting class? What
No,
did you learn?
He said he drank too much last night.
There was some
beers
yelling.
after.
There was some yelling in acting class. I was asked to read scripts and do roles that required me to raise my voice in character, and so I'm paying for it today. This is the price of being an actor.
Right.
You got to immerse
and raising
yourself.
your voice. Because I've noticed as I get older, Dan, when I raise my voice, and I'm going through it right now as well, when I raise my voice is shot. I used to yell all the time. Voice was fine the next day. If I yell just a little bit the day before the next day, voice is wrecked.
It was the cigarettes in the garage this morning.
Probably.
David Sampson is lurking around the premises here, and he's got some good stuff to talk about. But I wanted to start with the firing of Michael Malone. That seems crazy to me. And the way they have sped up in the NBA, that I guess it's 3 of the past 5 NBA champions have fired their head coach within 2 seasons of the firing, makes me wonder, in today's day and age, I want to play this sound from Mike Malone 6 days ago after they lost to the Trailblazers and ask you if this was the last drop in the bucket where an NBA champion who has the best player in the league fires its coach because they're tuning stuff like this out.
Have some pride. I didn't think we played with any pride tonight.
I feel like they took that.
I really care. It's not my job to evaluate how they take things. My job is to be honest, and sometimes brutally honest. And tonight, it was a brutally honest message. And the guys that are full of won't hear it. They'll say coach is tripping. And the guys that maybe do really care will, because they're not going to go back and watch their minutes, because nobody watches their minutes. Nobody watches film. So we'll have to show them the film. And I said, if somebody disagrees with me, please speak up. And nobody said a word. So, again, I'm not really concerned with how they took that message. My thing is being honest with how we just played. And the same thing that's been bothering us of late that I talked about pregame, the turnovers, the rebounding, was even worse tonight. And I didn't think it could get any worse, but it did.
I want to ask you guys about one sentence in there, which he said, it's not my job to evaluate how they take things. I'm not totally sure in today's age with today's player that one flies. And I say that as someone who remembers being impressed by Eric Spoelstra early in his career when I asked him about players liking him or players coach, and he's like, I am not here for anyone liking me. Do not care whether they like me. It's totally irrelevant. I ask you, though, is it?
I think the NBA has changed quite a bit, though, since you had that conversation with Eric Spoelstra. I can see where Michael Malone, he says that Michael Malone's always spoken with a bravado about him, but he's saying that as a recent NBA champion head coach that has succeeded with that very core. At the very highest level, they won a championship with him issuing that message, going about things a certain way. I don't know what's changed, really, except for the rest of the conference probably getting a little bit better and the results not quite being there. I spoke to people that would know, that cover the NBA, because I don't follow it that closely. I saw this alert, and once again, the second time this year after the Luka trade, I'm like, is this real? Could they have possibly done this? This is the second top 5 seed in the Western Conference that has decided to fire its head coach with 10 games remaining in the season.
It's crazy. Kevin O'Connor.
But I'm sorry, but what they told me was Michael Malone tends to ride his team really, really hard. And when the results aren't there, you don't have the success. We've seen this in the NFL where the authoritarian type of head coach, his act wears thin after a little bit. Me, as a Heat fan, I'm really shocked that a team with a championship pedigree that failed to deliver on expectations actually had a punitive measure for leadership. That's crazy.
You said when the results aren't there, that team's really good.
Well, they're 47-32. They're the 5th seed in the West right now.
That team is really good,
though.
though.
It's a weird conference in that, they're like a game away from the 8th seed.
They've never been the 1 seed. That's not who they are. They didn't win the championship as the 1 seed. They've never been the best team in that conference.
But when you have the best player in the league, don't you expect the record to be better than 47-32?
What it's been almost the entire time Jokic is there during his reign of dominance is about where it is. This isn't about the record when you're doing it at this point.
I kind of understand the GM being fired, though.
Well, here's what Kevin O'Connor says, and yes, I understand the GM being fired too, but he says absolutely nuts. Booth and Malone never liked each other, rarely spoke, and talked behind each other's back. With the team struggling on the court, Nuggets ownership decided to fire both of them, and that seems insane. And it does feel insane because it is rare. Not since the Luka trade have I double-checked the Shams account and been like, am I getting Scheftered or
NBA
Ballsacked?
Centelled.
Yeah, one of like I have to. Did someone spell Shams's last name in a way that is meant to trick me because they changed a letter and can buy a blue check mark?
I have the mobile alerts, but even then, just like the Luke one, I'm like, something's wrong here.
You know they can't do this without at least mentioning it to Jokic, and I just wish to be a fly on the wall for his indifference. Him just being like, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, with the Taylor Jenkins stuff in Memphis, I'm like, well, you know that this probably went through Ja at some point, and I can see Ja having opinions on the matter. Jokic, I assume that they cleared this with him, but I'm not really sure.
I don't care.
Ball basket.
Is the season over? No, you still got to play.
I mean, not only is the season not over, they could still win home court advantage in the playoffs. It's crazy to fire them when they fired him.
Well, they have more information than we do,
They
right?
do for sure, but when I hear a coach question his players' pride, that's a red flag. I don't think any player, and it isn't just this generation, I don't think any player ever wants to have their pride or their effort questioned. You can question the physicality of their play or something they're doing technically wrong, but to say that you don't have any pride or you're not trying
sarcastically saying, oh, they don't watch film. We're going to have to show them it.
There's no way he said it thinking this is going to cost me my job. I won a title a couple of years ago. Sometimes you got to lie, Dan. Sometimes lying is the best policy. I'm telling you, got to say, listen, my guys are champions. They will figure it out. We don't watch film, but we have the best player in the world. You have to just say the things you need to say to keep your job. You know what I'm saying?
They were the 1 seed when they won the championship in 2023.
Were they? Okay, thank you.
Jokic is like, well, we'll get this over quicker. Okay, new coach, bring him in.
Whatever you want.
I don't think those accents are working for me.
Did you see Did you see on TNT Lefko asked Shaq, 2001 Shaquille O'Neal versus 2025 Jokic, what happens? And he goes, Slovenian chicken. And then he goes on the thing, and then like Lefko just like tries to squeeze in. He's Serbian.
The thing I wanted to ask you about what you just said, because you said I don't know what changed. And one of the things that changed pretty dramatically where power is concerned is the players. Now, if we're going to make it that 3 of the last 5 NBA champion coaches have been fired within 2 years, the players' guaranteed money and position is more guaranteed than the coaches. And the power that the player has by virtue of that makes it more important that you like him or listen to him or respect him. Makes it more important now than it's ever been. If I make the power imbalance with the coaches something that the coach can behave like this and control just your minutes, Russell Westbrook can sabotage you. Russell Westbrook's game, is anyone else still amazed that Russell Westbrook is still out there getting minutes when he is, by volume, one of the worst three-point shooters we've ever seen in the history of the league and only gotten worse as his game has declined? A guy who averaged a triple-double for a season and got to enjoy the ego of being the MVP of the league has played in this league about 2 or 3 years longer than I thought he was going to fit anywhere because of what his usage rate demands and what his inefficiencies are with the basketball. A lot of people are pointing to this and just saying, well, what the GM did to get fired is that Bruce Brown, who helped them win a championship, is gone. And what's in its place is a Russell Westbrook that's at the very tail end of the fumes of his career. And I would have thought that he would have already been out of the league because I didn't think that he was going to be somebody on a bench playing 12 minutes a night.
I remember looking at it a couple months ago and being surprised at how good Westbrook was playing for them. Now, the numbers have probably dipped a little bit, but he's having a better year than he had last year for them. I think you're right to seize on that, regardless of him improving year over year. I know they won with this core, but you have what might be the most unstoppable offensive force in the history of the game, and to surround him with that same level of talent and slowly pick away pieces that made a difference on a championship team, that's not really a recipe for a GM keeping his job, especially when you've already established what the new standard is for a franchise. So I totally get the GM. The head coach, I'm shocked. Like, I can understand firing Malone after if they disappoint in the postseason. But I guess the thinking is from Stan Kroenke on down, we have what I just said, the most dominant offensive force in the NBA. We cannot waste another year of this window. We are not going to get to the top of the mountain with this head coach. And if that's what they deduce, then you got to support it, right?
No.
Okay.
The reason I don't have to support it is because of the timing.
But you support it with the Heat?
It's a weird timing. It's a weird timing, like that. I don't.
They think a new coach is going to be the thing that helps propel this team to an NBA championship.
I'm not going to sit here and question people who have a lot more information than I do and a lot more investment in what they're doing, making a decision that is shocking to me. But I'm shocked by the timing of it. It's not, we've changed the rules, okay? Hey, champion coach, you've got 2 years, and being 15 games over 500 after 2 years is not enough. You now have less than 2 years to do it. But firing the thing that Memphis and Denver has done here with fewer than 5 games before the playoffs, I don't even know the mechanics. Do you think anybody in our audience can explain to me the mechanics of just overhauling your entire management team this close to the playoffs? Like, what does it even mean to get this person out? And when I ask you about, does it matter if players like their coach, to me, the reason this is being done, even though we don't have all the reporting information on this, is because they believe by simply getting Mike Malone off their neck, whatever tactical advantages he offers, whatever knowledge of the players he offers, whatever coach of the year stuff he offers, they think is not as worth as much. Let's get these people off of these players at a wildly inopportune time. And I ask you guys, like, if you think this this isn't a wildly inopportune time. Where would I have to put it for you to be shocked by it? Right before the playoffs? 2 games into the playoffs?
I mean, this is effectively right before the playoffs, but like this seems like a move that you would normally applaud as leadership, because this is not the time most people would do it. Most people would wait till the end of the season, till a failed playoff run. And here they're saying, this is what we've determined to be the problem, and this is the piece that we feel like we need to remove. Let's remove it now instead of wasting a playoff run.
When you say 2 games into the playoffs, are you thinking the Nuggets are down 0-2 in a series, they fire the coach? That would be great. I mean,
So in the NBA, there aren't very many recent examples, especially when you're trying to cite something this close. Ty Lue would probably be the most recent example of a midseason change. I would say in Europe, in soccer, both on the international and club level, there are plenty of examples of a management change right before an elimination stretch in a competition or a pivotal point in the season where the team goes on to go on a run. Hockey, the same way, but 10 games before the season. You have a couple examples with the Lakers, but this is a fairly new phenomenon in the United States.
Jessica, can you please tell me the year that the Nuggets were the 1 seed, how many games over 500 were they when they were the 1 seed?
Oh, they were 53-29, so it's a .649 or 646 winning percentage.
Craig Berube and Dan Biesma, I probably butchered that last name, for the Pens, both midseason changes. So I was just looking up interim coaches. Most of these happen way closer to the middle part of the season than the latter, though.
Yeah, and they have injuries going into the playoffs, so I think this is telling you the front office, I guess, is like, we don't think they're going to go very far. The defense has not been good. Like, this team's not going to make a deep run anyways because of this 5-game skid they've been on. So let's just do it now and get it over with, because we know this is not going to be the year that they win.
I don't believe that. No, I believe that this is a move meant to try and alter that they've decided that with Malone, this isn't the year, and with someone else, it will be. Like, it's not that this is merely shocking. It's the timing. More than just firing the coach, which is surprising enough. But let's go out here. David Sampson, Nothing Personal. He just finished with Nothing Personal. What were your thoughts here on everything that the Nuggets did, what Billy is saying about leadership, and what we're talking about a coach saying he doesn't care whether or not he's liked or not, even though in this case I would say it probably had something to do with what was happening at the end?
The only possible excuse here is that something majorly acute happened. That is the only way that you could make a change like this. 3 games to go. When the Hawks fired Hubie Brown, they were not in the playoff race, and that's the closest example we can find in the association. But now the problem is you had the vice chairman, the owner's son, go out and explain why he did it, and the explanation was incredibly bizarre. He made a statement and then went on TV saying there were a lot of very disturbing trends. We evaluated this very carefully, as though to say that in a power struggle between the GM and the coach, the solution is to fire both. That's not the solution. You choose a side and you fire one of them, and you don't do it with 3 games left. There's no need to, because as a leader, you can empower the winning side of the power struggle, and you can neuter the losing side without creating this sort of havoc. There was simply no upside to it. I expect the Denver Nuggets players to have a players-only meeting today before they play the Kings, and I expect them to just go play and ignore the idiocy that was exemplified by the front office.
You say there's no upside to it. They don't think that, correct? And the idiocy you're saying is a front office and a leadership team that won the championship a couple of years ago. You're saying no upside, even though they would not agree with that assessment. Or do you agree with Jess that they've given up on the season and this is just to get the odor? This is just basically Febreze in the bathroom after you've made a mess.
I spent my career chasing Amy after winning the World Series in 2003. I know exactly what they're doing. Obviously, you want to do anything you can. You're not throwing away any season because you never know when you're going to do it again, so you try every year to do it. The Cronkies actually believe that this will make the difference in the Western Conference. And of course, it's silly. They promoted the assistant, the great Rick Adelman's son, to be the coach. Is he going to put in a whole new system in the draft, in the players, in the minutes? It's preposterous. There is no change that will happen with the Nuggets. Their fate is their fate, and all it does is make them look silly.
Well, the counting stats, especially defensively, are pretty damning, and they've shown, that core has shown, they can dial it up, and they've never been as bad as 20th in defensive efficiency. So that may play to something that Woody Page said on Around the Horn yesterday. Woody Page has been in that market for a long time, and he covered the Denver Nuggets, and he had sources that said, I think you can kind of tell from the Michael Malone clip that we played, that Malone's message to the players had gotten stale. They were over it, and Jokic did indeed sign off on this move to further the point that Malone had gotten stale with the team.
Gotten stale with a couple of games left in the season.
Yeah.
My guess is that the expiration date was long before this. Do you have any decent theories, David? Any decent theories on how things could possibly be so bad between a general manager and a coach that the owner throws up? If both of them are saying either he goes or I go, and the owner says, fine, you're both right, both of you get out of here.
Yeah, we had it in the Marlins organization where we had fights between general manager and manager, or general manager and head of player personnel, or general manager and AGM. And it was always a power struggle that exists in any company. You have that. And that's why I'm telling you, you choose one side or the other, but you choose it at a point that makes sense for the organization. When you put the grenade, the Ja Morant grenade that was thrown into the Nuggets right now, you can't believe or imagine that it's going to be able to effectuate change as quickly as is required with 3 games left until the playoffs. There is nothing Adelman can do that's different than Malone. He's not going to change the players or the minutes because the owner could have had that done 10 games ago or 20 games ago. And so what they were evaluating, I can't figure out for the life of me. But for me, power struggles, we solve them, we choose a side, and then we fire one of them and keep the other and empower them more until they prove they're not good, and then we fire that person too.
David, it seems like the side that you chose was Larry Beinfest, was the GM. Is that because he's in charge of the entire organization from an on-the-field standpoint? So you figure, hey, if he wants the manager to go, I got to go with my guy, right?
Yeah, we chose Larry Beinfest until it was chosen Dan Jennings over Larry Beinfest. Right. So power struggles change, and the only thing that's common is that they're always existing in any company, and it's incumbent upon the owner, the president, to choose in that power struggle. It happens not in sports. It happens on Wall Street. It happens everywhere. And with the Nuggets, what they did is they said, here's an idea. We're going to actually get rid of both of you. And in my experience, because I've considered this, the problem is then you've got to bring in somebody, and you've got to start with a GM, because if you hire a coach first, then you're basically emasculating whatever GM is brought in. So then you have to start with the GM, so you give an interim tag to Adelman and then start again during the offseason. Why didn't you just wait?
So, David, this is a conference where there's only one dominant team. And if you're Denver, you're allowed to think, you know what, we're underperforming. We could still be the second best team in this conference. You don't think that firing an unpopular coach, even now, even with this timing, is going to provide some sort of a spark? You don't believe in that spark theory based on sudden change?
We don't talk about this much, and I loved Jack McKeon. And if you go back and ask the players in 2003, what did you think of Jack McKeon? They would say, God, we loved him. He was the cuddliest old man. We didn't know what the hell he was doing. He didn't know half our names. He was doing things that were so outrageous that we couldn't stand it, but it worked. We happened to win games, and then we won the World Series. By the way, 2 years later, we fired him because it wasn't working anymore. And so sometimes it's just about the moment, and it's about having the right players getting this magic pixie dust, and then you spend the rest of your life chasing it.
Well, let me ask you about 2006, where you guys were in wild card contention to the latter part of the season. You decided to fire Joe Girardi, who that year had won National League Manager of the Year. He only lasted 1 year there, so I assume, even as you guys were in wild card contention, Girardi's act had worn thin. So did you guys actually consider a managerial change as you guys were pushing for that final wild card spot?
Yeah, well, earlier, he was fired during the season, if you remember. And, Greg, you may have covered this. He got fired during a game.
In October?
No, it was not in October. It was during the actual regular season when he yelled at our owner during a game to sit down and shut up. So we fired him, and then the players did a mutiny, so we rehired him for the rest of the season, knowing we were going to fire him, and we begged him not to be the manager of the year, but we knew there was a chance because we had overperformed giving the payroll, but it didn't stop us. But that was a power struggle between all of us and Girardi.
How does the campaigning process against your own team winning manager of the year?
It's a strange one, but it's you certainly don't invest a lot of money and time. You call up the writers and say, hey, excuse me, any chance you cannot vote for our guy? We're about to can him.
Now, David, you didn't try to talk Loria out of firing this manager just because the manager had yelled at him and told him to shut up? That doesn't seem like a firing offense to me unless the owner is especially thin-skinned.
Oh, we wanted to fire Girardi at the opening press conference, Larry and I. From minute one, we didn't want to hire him. He was not on our list, but he was a forced hire. And from the opening press conference, we knew that we were going to have a problem with him because he was making demands for coaches like Bobby Meacham and Mike Harkey and Gary Tuck to be hired, and he was just a nightmare from minute one, and we told the owner we don't want to work with him, and the owner said he's the manager, that is the decision. And so when Girardi, we led him to water because Jeffrey liked to sit next to the dugout and yell at umpires and players, and we knew Girardi didn't like it, and we waited for that pot to boil and simmer. When Girardi stood up and yelled at him, we cheered up in the box. Up comes Jeffrey. Jeffrey says, get rid of him. And we were like, are you sure? Get rid of him right now. We're like, yes, baby. We walked down after the game and said, Joe, you're fired.
You're
so
evil.
Great.
Can you take us through the in-game firing of Jack McKeon?
And the mutiny.
Yes.
Well, the in-game firing was Girardi. Not McKeon. And so what happens is Jeffrey comes up and says, fire him. So we go down, and we're standing outside the dugout, and we get word in like, Joe, you're about to get fired, just so you know, finish managing the game, but you're done. He comes in after the game, and we say, by the way, you can't do that, you're gone. And we were so happy. But then that was a team of young players, as you recall. And those players, it was Uglin, it was Hanley. They loved Joe Girardi because he was a player's manager. It was his first time managing, and he didn't really know what he was doing. And they did a mutiny in the clubhouse. When we told the players, just like Kroenke has to tell the Nuggets players, hey, Mike Malone's gone. The players basically said, you know, we're not going to play. And I said, of course you're going to play. We'll send you all down. Like, you're going to play or you won't get paid. And they said, no, we're going to go to Jeffrey and we're not going to play. And so we then had to crawl back to Jeffrey and say, uh-oh, we got to keep Girardi for the rest of the year, but we'll can him the minute the year's over. But these players are being ridiculous, and they're just young infants, but we're going to have to acquiesce to them. It was a nightmare, Greg. I don't know how much the media was aware of that as it was happening, but you were all outside the clubhouse while all of this was happening. The mutiny happened when the clubhouse was closed after the game.
Chris, can you do me the favor and just isolate the laugh of David Sampson when firing somebody? I want to get that laugh and have it broadcast and echoey and sinister. David, we will come back to you in a second. I wanted to ask Greg Cody while he is here. I don't know how much you guys talked about this last week, if at all, because what was dominating the conversation on a Basketball Hall of Fame that's very liberal to get into were people talking about Dwight Howard and Carmelo Anthony. But they did not talk very much about the last name that snuck in on a list that I saw at the bottom and I was surprised by, which is, there's Micky Arison in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and I guess Stugotz is just learning that now, and I don't know what kind of news that made locally or how much people cared. It can't be disputed that he's a good owner, but I didn't immediately think of him as a Hall of Fame owner, even though 3 championships is Hall of Fame owner, and I would want to work for him given what it is that I've watched him do with the Miami Heat, which is super unusual. And this is something that you just don't see very often, where you see this kind of wealth and power and ego. The way, and it serves the Miami Heat to do this, but the way that the Miami Heat are actually run by Micky Arison and Nick Arison, and they allow everyone, because it serves everyone, to know and think without any kind of rebuttal that Pat Riley is the deciding vote on all basketball things when he is not. It's a vote of 5, and the Arisons have 2 votes, and Micky Arison has been very quietly in the shadows for 25 years of that. The legacy and the myth of Riley is something that serves everybody, but most owners aren't okay with that.
I think it was a good selection because when you're the owner, you get residual credit for everything good that happened, everything bad as well. But in Mickey's case, the 3 championships, hiring Riley, drafting Dwayne Wade, getting LeBron, in the macro, I think, and the stability of that franchise. That's been the most relentlessly, consistently winning franchise in South Florida sports history. And I think the owner gets residual credit. Plus, Basketball Hall of Fame lets in too many people. Let's be honest. It's easier to get in to the Naismith Hall of Fame than it is other halls of fame. But can I say that Micky Arison deserved it? Sure. Yeah, and I also like the fact that...
Can you say it in a voice that's any better than the one?
No, I can't.
Get the man some water.
Can we get the man something to
He's
drink
in character.
The Hall of Fame move that Micky Arison made was hiring Pat Riley. Right. I don't know if that gets you into the Hall of Fame, but getting Riley away from the Knicks to run your organization in Miami, that's the Hall of Fame
Of course,
move.
yeah.
Right.
But like I say, everything that went right, the owner gets credit for that. I mean, having the new arena built, that's under his ownership. So yeah, I think he deserved it. And Sylvia Fowles, Miami born, also made the Hall of Fame, WNBA grade. So shout out to her. That's maniacal.
Do we have other laughs to compare it to? Because I believe he laughed harder when Bob Ross's family ripped him off. I thought that he enjoyed. I thought that laugh was a more sinister laugh than the laugh that we get when Sampson fires somebody. Greg Cody is he's claiming something shocking, I believe. Greg Cody is claiming that the Miami Heat and Inter Miami have games of the year on the docket.
Yes, right. Games of the year. I mean, tonight, Miami at Chicago, Heat at Bulls is for all practical purposes going to determine home court in the play-in.
It's a big game, Dan.
It's a big game.
It is.
Okay. Keep in mind that's in the context of a meh season, a nothing season. Man. Other than the Jimmy Butler controversy, this has been the most forgettable Heat season in recent memory. So tonight, at least, is a game with stakes. Inter Miami, I don't have to tell Mike Ryan, they have to win against LAFC because if they go out in the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup again, on top of the crap they took in the MLS Cup playoffs last season, that heaps so much pressure on Messi because as much as Messi has meant for this off-field health of the franchise in the league, he's failed to deliver a major cup. And don't tell me about the League's Cup. Nobody cares about that.
I was going to tell you about the Supporters' Shield.
The Supporters' Shield is important, but it's also the regular season. And as my great friend Stugotz would say, do it in the playoffs, which they infamously did not.
Bring in the
year.
water. Mm-hmm. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, somebody please help him here. I read the story.
You sound great, Greg.
He doesn't sound
Let's hear
great.
the difference.
But
Little
lying
hydration.
is sometimes the best policy.
Thank you.
My wife says this is a sexy voice.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm hard.
Thank you. Wow. So am I, actually. I don't know why.
Just to tease our video that's coming out of my dad acting, the improv classes last night, I don't want to ruin anything, this reminded me of it. Oddly sexual. And a lot of it, not my dad's fault. He didn't bring it there. It was brought there to him, and it was awkward.
Baby.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. It was an improv in the improv section.
I said that, I think.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Okay. Good water, by the way. Meadowlark water, some of the best on earth.
You instantly sound better with a little hydration, man.
Hydration.
Why are you so
Overrated.
bad at taking care of yourself?
I let others do that for me.
Why don't they do it better?
That's a good question.
He's gotten
I
to
don't know.
70, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's alive
He
and
made it.
kicking.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly
Yeah,
right.
but he's gotten.
I
To,
won't.
he's
You think
gotten,
he made it here alone?
He's gotten to 70, but he's gotten to 70 coming in here and lamenting why he looks so much older than 89-year-old Jane Fonda, who's 19 years older than he
Yeah,
is.
she's had work. I haven't.
My dad went down a slide on the cruise.
Really?
Damn right I did.
Wow.
I sure did and enjoyed every minute of it.
Were you sore the next day? Or?
No. Also,
Actually, 2 slides. He went down a kid's slide randomly, and then he went down like an extreme water slide, like
Yeah.
a family style ride.
Nice.
a big flume. Yeah, that was fun. I'm physically active, you know.
You walk from your office to the garage.
I do it all.
Yeah.
By the way, this hotel we're in,
Oh boy.
you go to the elevator, there's no button
Great
to
hotel,
push.
great party.
It is a great. I mean, we love the Ulster, but
It's beautiful, but confusing.
when I go to an elevator, I expect to push a button to open the door.
I got a call this morning. He's like, I can't get on the elevator.
Gotta-
He was like standing in the elevator well, and there's no buttons. I'm like, Dad, walk
Imagine
back out
that.
to the hallway. There's the scanner thing out there. He's like, oh yeah, okay. And then he calls me back. I can only get down to the lobby.
How have you been getting up here every week since you've been doing this, using that elevator without knowing how that elevator works?
Well,
there are no buttons in that elevator.
I've got the fob that I use at the lobby level. This is the first time I've ever. I think it's the
Right.
first time I've
Not
ever.
the first time.
But that fob works on any level.
You've stayed here
Does it?
before.
yeah.
But the fob was in my.
It will only
fob
take
gives
you
you
to
clearance
certain
to the floor that
floors.
we're on.
Yes,
Yeah.
it will only take you.
Right. Yeah. So it's,
Well,
it's
why didn't you try the fob that you usually try? to
because
get
it
to-
was in my satchel.
Right.
You know, I had my room key with me, but I didn't have the fob handy.
If only one of those people who takes care of you had been around to
Right.
just take care of that for you.
Well, I've told you for years I need a PA. You know,
You said you need a staff. You said
Well-
you need an entire staff and that you actually want a king's staff. That
right.
you want not just the people that work for him, but a staff
Right.
you can carry around to order them around.
right. I want to have a chief of staff. You know, and the president does. I want one. You know, I think I need one. quite
I'd like to apply for that position.
That would be great.
I want to be on your staff.
Oh my God, that'd be the
Somebody sent in a staff for him at the old studio. I don't think it made it over to this one.
Yeah, that was majestic. It was like 8 feet tall. Whatever happened to that?
If only
staff?
we still had it.
Yeah.
What could that thing be doing now?
I still have my dad's walking cane,
Is that so?
which is a
Wild Bill.
Yeah, which is a mini staff, I guess you'd call it.
That was the cane that I used, Mike, when we did the owner bit. Remember where I...
Final game of the season
Oh
on Friday.
yeah,
And then I felt instantly uncomfortable because I was wearing a cowboy hat
yeah,
and I had a cane.
an old man's cane.
And it was just oddly uncomfortable.
Right,
Everyone looking at me like, this guy's a racist.
that was fun.
Billy, why are you still hard?
After a blank space on the calendar, Formula One is back in Azerbaijan despite its reputation for tight corners and narrow roads. F1 is putting a sprint race in Baku. On Saturday, Charles Leclerc is fearless in pole position as the sprint begins. But at the start, London boy George Russell delivers some karma to Max Verstappen, making him a move to push him wide. Max is red, but George says, don't blame me. Number 22, Yuki Tsunoda, clips the wall and loses a tire after just 2 laps. At the restart, Sergio Perez has a lead with 5 laps left. It's time to go. Checo wins the sprint race, but Max and George have bad blood when the race ends. You guys see what I'm doing yet? Will there be vigilante shit on Sunday? Max,
is amazing.
You need to calm down because it's lights out and away we go in Baku. Sparks fly, and Verstappen is driving like he's in a getaway car and pulls out into the lead. Long story short, Nick DeVries has a glitch and a safety car ensues. Perez is in the lead after a slew of pit stops, but he's not out of the woods yet. The one driver, Max Verstappen, has speed, but that's when Sergio Perez says, bye-bye, baby. As the race ends, Esteban Ocon goes into the pit, but the mastermind race organizers have let press onto the treacherous pit lane. This is why we can't have nice things. 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton finishes in 6th. The last great American dynasty, Haas, finishes out of the points, but today was a fairy tale for Sergio Perez. Verstappen finishes in 2nd, which is better than revenge. 1-2 for Red Bull is nothing new. They don't have champagne problems on the podium, but the anti-hero Max Verstappen is only ahead in the Drivers' Championship by 6 points. Fernando Alonso Alonso and Taylor Swift rumors are swirling. Long live Formula One. Max Verstappen has won the Drivers' Championship, but we still have 4 races to go. In Austin, Daniel Ricciardo rides a horse named Horsey McHorseface into the paddock. Zach Brown accuses Christian Horner of cheating, and Fort Lauderdale's own Logan Sargent will join Williams in 2023. During quali, Carlos Sainz takes the fastest lap while his teammate Charles Leclerc takes a grid penalty. Martin Brundle gets snubbed by Brad Pitt. Tim Apple doesn't know how to wave a flag. 440,000 people are at the Circuit of the Americas. It's lights out and away we go. On turn 1, Max Verstappen gets ahead of Carlos Sainz, and Sainz tries to recover, but gets hit by George Russell. The Spaniard is out of the race before the 1 lap is even over, and Russell takes a 5-second penalty. Valtteri Bottas' race ends early, and a safety car helps out Charles Leclerc for once. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll get in a massive collision, and debris is everywhere. Lewis Hamilton, on hard tires, leads the race with 10 laps to go, but the Flying Dutchman cannot be beat this year. It's Verstappen, Hamilton, and Leclerc. Sebastian Vettel battles to the finish in his final USGP. Baby Lando finishes 6th, and Yuki gets a point. Red Bull wins the Constructors' Championship for the first time in 10 years, a day after their founder's passing. People are crying, there's champagne flowing, fireworks are popping off. Everything is bigger in Texas, Dan, except for F1 drivers.
All right, fight fans, the moment we've finally been waiting for. The UFC is coming to the Kaseya Center, literally across the street, right there. I can throw a football to it. We've got UFC 314, Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez, and we got Michael Chandler versus Paddy the Batty Pimblett. The card is stacked top to bottom, okay? Me and Luke Thomas, part of the Metal Arc universe, we talked about all things UFC 314, the great things that are in store for a stacked card from top to bottom, like I said, razor-thin margins, almost pick'ems across the board how tight this card is. I talked to Luke Thomas. Go check that out on our YouTube channel. By the way, this Saturday, live, if you're not going to be at the fight for UFC 314, be at Casa Tiki because the MMA Hangout boys are going to be live and in full effect. The place is going to be absolutely rocking. Everybody who's missing out on going to the actual fight, head over to Casa Tiki MMA Hangout live Saturday night, 10 p.m. for UFC 314 at the crib in Miami. Let's go.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
I've got some Inter Miami questions for you guys. I have been fascinated by Messi's bodyguard, who runs up and down the sidelines and no longer is allowed to run up and down the sidelines. And he says it's crazier. In all his years in the Premier League, there were like 6 people who ran on the field, and now there have been 20 in a few months here because of the general insanity around Messi. Just out of curiosity, we can say flatly, right, that Luis Suarez is the second most famous athlete in Miami, correct?
Internationally.
Yeah, globally.
Sure.
Globally.
Yeah.
It's not even close. It's not even remotely close when you put together social media numbers, roar, reach, marketing dollars, even money earned. Luis Suarez is the second most famous athlete.
Jonah Bride.
I don't even know who that is. It's a Marlin, I assume.
player.
He's batting like 088.
Yeah, and I would lump LeBron and Dwayne Wade in this mix.
It's early.
I think you can make an argument that Luis Suarez is the second most globally famous athlete to play in South Florida, period, behind Messi. I think globally, Luis Suarez might be more famous than LeBron James.
I assume you were asking about in Miami, though.
I'm saying that he works and plays in Miami and is the second most famous athlete on earth to be playing in Miami,
But
right?
not in Miami.
No, not in Miami for sure. For one thing, he's absolutely everybody is swallowed by the shadow of Messi. All right, if you're playing for Inter Miami, I don't care who you are, and now they're talking about getting the Belgian midfielder from Man United,
Man City, Kevin De Bruyne,
or Man City.
Yeah,
right.
LeBron is the second most famous. I just did
all time,
all time,
right?
Yeah,
all time.
Yeah, but right now, actively, it's not even remotely close.
This is a confusing question because I know what David is saying and I know what you guys are saying. You guys are saying the most famous player playing in Miami, and you're talking worldwide, where he's making a distinction of he might be the second most famous worldwide, but he's not the second most famous in Miami at this time.
Not even certain he's in the top 5. I mean,
Manu.
Unrecognizable
Tua.
in the park.
Okay, but when I ask people who want fame, which fame would you rather have? Fame that's just in Miami or international fame? I'm talking about global fame. I'm talking about somebody who is, I guess he's 39 years old. I thought he was spent. The first year I watched him, he looked like a square block that was moving very slowly, and yet him and Messi are so much better than everyone that they're playing against that Inter Miami is the thing that it is because these two human beings are on this team, even at an advanced age. I understand that Ovechkin is now doing I understand that aging has now changed in sports and science has changed in sports, but I thought, not unlike Russell Westbrook, I thought the best of Luis Suarez was well behind us. I didn't think that he would be giving us good soccer in approaching 40.
Well, you're right. The best of him is well behind us. However, form is temporary, class is permanent, and he can do things even though he certainly can't run the way that he used to. I don't even know if he has cartilage in his knees. His knee situation, he could have medically retired years ago, but there is a certain class that he brings to the game, a vision, a chemistry that he has, particularly with Messi from all their years playing together, and just instinctually, he knows how to be in the right places. You don't need to be fleet of foot to have your positioning be all world. He was arguably the greatest striker of his generation. And there are certain aspects that you don't need to rely on your physical traits to still be that good at. And he's been an incredible signing. This was a signing that was not without some controversy. Why are we bringing a washed Luis Suarez here? Don't you want to put someone younger near Messi? Why are you just doing this to appease Messi? Well, it's worked out with Luis Suarez, no doubt.
Second most famous biter in the history of sports.
I mean, he's got multiple offenses. Behind Tyson, who spat off a chunk of an ear, I would put Luis Suarez there because he's got multiple incidents.
Didn't Marv Albert bite someone?
He did, but not at a World Cup.
Yeah.
That was in a hotel room.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, in sports, you didn't say on the field of play.
Jessica, did you make a face because you know the story or don't know the story of Marv Albert?
I'm vaguely aware of the story. Do you want to tell the story?
I don't think you want to know the story. I think no is
Billy,
the
do you
answer.
know the story?
I gotta be honest with you, I don't know the story. I just know he bit someone.
There is a sexual assault allegation that involves him and scandal, and before you could lose everything for this kind of scandal, allegedly, and also involved sex shaming beyond that with clothes that he was wearing.
A little cross-dressing?
Yeah. The thing that I wanted to ask you guys about before we update some NFL draft stuff that I know that Stugotz and Billy
It's my time of year, Dano.
are excited about, because it is Spoiler Wednesday. I have not gotten yet to the last two episodes of White Lotus, and I've managed to avoid some of the dangers. I have not yet had it spoiled for me. I just want to play some sound, though, from Mike White on, I think this is the official White Lotus podcast. Mike White has one of the rare shows, and it's kind of amazing that Max continues to be able to do this on Sunday nights, that 6 million people will gather to watch at the appointed time because they immediately want to talk about it. And some people evidently are disappointed by whatever it is that the ending is. And Mike White doesn't seem to care that they're disappointed because the creator of The White Lotus says the following of people who are correctly pointing out, my God, enough with the slow filler of all of these shots. And he is all these shots of water and beautiful shots, but enough with filler. Your show could have been, could have cut 20 minutes of fat out of every episode. And he's an artist and he's saying, no, you can't cut 20 minutes of fat out of it. I'm going for a pace.
There was complaining about how there's no plot, and that part I find weird because it never had a like it's never been. It's like part of me is just like, bro, this is the vibe. Like I'm world building, you know what I mean? It's just like if you don't want to go to bed with me, get out of my bed. Like, you know what I mean? I'm edging you. It's like, enjoy the edging. Like, if you don't want to be edged, get out of my bed. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, don't be a bossy bottom or get the fuck out of my bed. Like, don't come home with me. Don't get naked in my bed. Get the fuck out of my bed.
All right. I love being edged by you, Mike.
Like, obviously, something's going to happen. I'm not going to just we're not going to
leave you here. I'm not going to leave you here with nothing.
It's an interesting way to approach criticism.
So that sounded like a Survivor confessional to me. He was trying to move the story along, which is what you do as a confessional. My problem with what he said is he fought with so many people on set. The person he worked with forever disappeared, and Mike White has gone big ego now. And he's been very popular and gotten a lot done and a lot made, but it seems like he's getting a little big for his britches now, and I think it's going to cost him.
Are you citing the story from his composer on the theme that everybody loved? The composer did put the famous part that everybody identifies with, the part in the theme. Everybody was upset that it wasn't in the theme, and it was a Mike White decision, and it led the composer to say, I'm just not working with this guy anymore.
I've never heard it. I skip the theme every time. You guys don't skip that intro?
No, not anymore. I was looking forward to it.
Big
because
skip intro guy. If I have the
banger.
option to skip your intro, I'm skipping it.
Yeah, but if it's a good song.
I don't need it every time. I'll listen to first episode of the series.
Right.
I'll drink it in.
Did you do that for this season?
I think so.
Because you were like, well, the last time they did one of these seasons, it banged.
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Are you a skip intro person? Yes or no? David saying that this is going to cost Mike White. I don't know. He's got a wildly popular television show and too big for his britches. You don't think that most directors with wildly successful things are too big for their britches?
There's a lot of what have you done for me lately? And so they gave him increased budget. You can obviously tell from all those fat art shots. They went to the Thailand hotel for multiple months, 6-7 months filming. And there's been reports that all the actors got paid the same, not a lot of money. $40,000 per episode, about $320,000 for their time, plus the free vacation, all expenses paid. And then they'll get budget and they'll get renewed for season 4. But eventually that wears thin. And what happens is studio execs just decide, all right, that was a good run, but that's it.
But it's bigger than it's ever been. 6 million people gathered around on a Sunday night is not something the average behind a paywall is not something that the average show is doing these days. There aren't a lot like this. Like that,
he's made forever. Made forever.
Nobody's made forever, Mike.
Ryan Murphy's found a way to be made forever.
Michael
and most
Jordan
of his shows
is
are
made
not good.
forever. I mean, come on, David.
Mike White is not the GOAT.
Oh.
I mean, when it comes to Mac shows that resonate, Mike White is absolutely considered a tastemaker, and people will keep going to him thinking that he's going to replicate the formula. There's actually something, I know we're on this White Lotus thing, but did you see what China announced? What's being reported? That with the whole tariff situation, they are no longer going to open their box office to American-made films. That is going to positively crush Hollywood.
They're threatening that, and that's are you saying they enacted it already?
They are still threatening. I think we're still in the very threatening phase and reciprocal tariff phase, but as part of the threats right now, they're saying we're just going to close off this huge market to Hollywood. And I don't think this might be beyond the scope of Mel Gibson and his ability to broker peace.
The problem there, Mike, just quickly, is that he's appealing. China there is going after an industry that Trump doesn't actually care about. So it's not going to have any impact.
He did put Mel Gibson in charge of it. All right, so there's someone staffed against this.
You say this is going to absolutely crush Hollywood, and I would say that we're already there, having just returned from there and seeing that the only billboards anywhere in town are all Netflix. Like everything there is Netflix. I don't know what it is that China will do to Netflix, but Netflix doesn't really need the theater. Like this will just make it go faster, but we're already there. Like when you drive through that city, you realize that there's one thing spending money in that city to advertise all of its stuff, and it's Netflix. It's on every billboard, and it's not a lot of other stuff that's not Netflix. So all of this has largely already changed. I just can't possibly predict, and neither can our economists, and neither can our president, and neither can anybody, what the actual damage is going to be of what is presently happening to the economy. But Stugotz just informed me with great delight that the NASDAQ is up today.
245. I mean,
just while
Did you check back at the end, though?
While I was talking, Stugotz whispered it into my ear that the NASDAQ is up.
Are you day trading, Stugotz?
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
A fool and his money will soon be parted.
I want to
It's
get
a great buying opportunity, David. I don't care what you say. It is.
I will say the bond market is looking pretty dangerous, and there's a lot of people turning to the bond market for something a little bit more conservative, given the instability of the stock market, which is a speculative market anyways. So you're going to have people writing vibes. Like yesterday, there were a lot of people peacocking when the Dow was up, and then by the end of the day in closing bell, it was down. The bond market is particularly concerning right now.
Before we get to a new draft expert that Billy and Stugotz are excited about just because it allows us to talk about the NFL draft, before David leaves, and I urge you to listen to Nothing Personal, which is doing spectacularly for the Le Batard and Friends network, there was a horribly sad story in baseball yesterday, and I don't know how many people are talking about it because Octavio Dotel was a reliever from a long time ago. But, David, this one hurt you.
Yeah, not that long ago. He's only 51 years old. Yeah. And if you listen to today's Nothing Personal, you'll hear quite a bit about this. But what I didn't have time to mention on the show that I'd like to just talk about now is how we all react to what took place and how, to us, we're here in the United States and it starts as a headline, maybe number one headline, and within 3 hours it's below who's being drafted or what the rumor is. The reality is that 79 people are dead in the Dominican because of a roof collapse that is not dissimilar to what happened in Surfside, except it happens all the time in the Dominican because the way that construction is done, and I am as guilty as anyone, we go to the Dominican and we cut corners. We figure out how to schmeiss permit people and how to get things done because we're trying to just get players. And then we do press conferences saying, hey, look at our great new brand spanking new academy. Every team does it, but yet what's behind it is lies. And then it can result in something like this. Thank God it wasn't a baseball academy, but it was a place where players and other people were innocent people who died because the construction is so shoddy. And it's down in the headlines. We're not going to talk about it after today. And lives have been changed. Nelson Cruz's sister is dead. And things in the Dominican happen. Greg's covered it. Car accidents happen where players die. We didn't want our players to ever go home to the Dominican, and the guilt I feel currently about wanting players not to go home because I'm worried they're going to die, and then when they do die, you feel like it's more of an I told you so versus taking the time to fix it.
Appreciate your help this week, David. We're going to let you go now because our draft expert is here, and you have to get out of the way during baseball season for the NFL draft because Stugotz and Billy want to talk to our new draft expert. So I'm sorry.
It's not just them.
We all do.
Yeah, I would much rather talk the NFL.
Very
Although
young.
I did appreciate your comments on the matter.
See you later, David. Thank you for spending this time with
Transition.
us this week. Yes, a poor one. Admittedly, a poor one. Not easy to transition out of that to a draft expert.
Probably should have considered that.
Yeah. I should have. But he got here early, and I saw his face in the preview.
That never happens to him.
And it disoriented me, and it forced on live television me to transition poorly. Thank you for allowing it to happen without anyone noticing.
We could have said a more polished host, perhaps.
Yes. There are any number of ways I could have done that better. And if I'd had a crew that supported me, that would not be mentioned on air either. It would just go unmentioned, and I would just do it awkwardly. But that's not the predicament I'm in. That's not the show I run.
I'm here for you, Dan.
Yeah, sometimes. Not recently. The Athletics NFL draft expert. He's been researching the NFL draft for nearly 20 years to create the definitive resource for fans and football insiders alike. And that sounds asinine because I'm looking at his face and there's no way this person is 20 years old. So unless he was doing it as an embryo, and he may have been, I find it hard to believe that he's running the definitive draft guide known as The Beast. It's available today at theathletic.com. And he's also a barbecue pitmaster. We'll get to that in a second with him because I want to question his expertise there.
He's accomplished a lot, huh?
I mean, at a very young age, it would appear. Yeah. So thank you, Dane, for being on the show with us and explain to us how it is that you became an NFL draft expert. How does one, I would imagine in this particular space, I just got back and I saw Mina Kimes, and for all of the interests that she has in the world, and they are varied, nothing is more interesting to her than mock drafts. And I just find it super bizarre. Like, I don't understand the redoing of mock drafts again and again and again.
That has to disappoint you so much coming from Mina Kimes'
I just don't
mouth.
understand it. I'm wildly confused by it, but this is an area that many people care about. And you, thank you for joining us, Dane, have been caring about it since when? How exactly did you become a draft expert?
Well, scouting is always what I've wanted to do. Going back to the first time I created a draft guide was my freshman year dorm room back at Mount Union in 2005. So been doing it for a while now, and it's the ultimate hope for fans, right? Is the idea of, okay, this is how we can get better if we draft this player and that player, and it's kind of a reminder that the NFL is king when we're here in April, and the NFL draft is still driving a lot of the conversations that sports fans are having. But also, it's the ultimate marriage of college football and the NFL. Two of the biggest, if not the two biggest sports in the country. So there's a lot of reasons for the popularity, and I'm thankful and blessed enough that there is that popularity. It allows me to have this job and create a document like this, which is really cool this year. It's not just a PDF. It's an interactive micro site where there's over 2,600 prospects on there. There's 400 reports, all the NFL verified testing information. You can check it all out on The Athletic. And so people have been really digging it, and it's cool to take it to these heights this year.
Put it on the poll. Do you want an interactive microsite with your football at Le Batard Show?
PDF is fine.
Can you tell me, more responsible for your great skin, youth or moisturizer?
Genetics, right? I mean, look, I've always looked younger than I am, and I'll appreciate that. I'm almost 40, and I'll appreciate that now, when I get into my 40s, but I have 4 kids. And so that weighs on you a little bit, right? Especially when, you've got soccer and baseball and dance, and I've got twins. And so, I don't feel as young as I used to. I'll put it that way.
It does look like Stugotz maybe like 30 years ago.
In my prime.
Like the hat, the outfit.
Kidding
I'm
me?
just saying,
I
like,
think Stugotz looked like that at 8.
I look like Clooney.
Like they're wearing the same outfit. It's just he looks.
They
better.
don't look alike, and they don't. No,
I'm better looking.
No,
yes, yeah. In my prime, Dan. I mean, come on.
The league verified testing information that you have for more than 2,000 prospects. How is it that you go about beginning to tackle that amount of research?
Yeah, it's just my relationships in the league. I wouldn't be able to do this job without my network of scouts that I rely on to help me gather all this information. And I try to, my dream was always to scout in the league. And then when I was trying to break into the league, I started doing it on the media side. And I was like, okay, well, this is kind of fun because I'm not scouting for just one team or one roster. I'm doing it for 32 teams, and I can do it from a very generalized standpoint. And so I wanted to create a guide that I would want to read and I would want to consume. And so I want to know, okay, what's the 40-yard dash for all these guys? What's the vertical? I want to know, just for comparison purposes, what is all the testing information? And so, we have the combine, that's 300-ish type players, but all the pro days, all the workouts, I want to be able to get all that information. And so definitely proud of the fact that you're not going to find this information elsewhere besides the Beast with all the NFL verified testing, 40s, heights, weights. We're not relying on what the schools say they are, height, weight. We're going to get the exact arm length for all of these guys. And so it's really helpful for me in my process. And I know fans just really eat it up.
Our draft expert, Greg Cody, had 12 exactos last year. I'm wondering how many you had.
Yeah, in terms of like nailing the first round picks.
You got it. Nail the pick. Nail the team they're going to.
Exacto.
Yep.
The exacto wasn't clear enough for you
AKA
just by calling it
Capital E.
Calling it an exacto didn't clue you in to the great expertise of our 70-year-old veteran of the draft who takes great pride in kicking the ass of Mel Kiper every year with his exacto.
That's true. I only do one mock draft, by the way. I don't do mock draft 0.5.0, 6.0. Come on. One mock draft is enough. We all love mock drafts. Second second biggest day in the NFL behind the Super Bowl. Let me ask you a
Well,
question.
you can tell me who's going 2 overall.
He hasn't done his research yet.
I think Travis Hunter right now, but I'm still in mid research.
Right.
Well, Dane, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
He didn't answer the other one.
Right.
Can we
The
get the
exacto
answer
question.
to his
Yeah,
exacto
yeah,
question?
yeah,
He's evading the jury.
I'll be honest. I don't remember. I don't
Not a
think it
good
was
sign.
12. It was probably 9 or 10.
That's credible.
It's I care more about my rankings, to be honest, than the mock draft. Like I care about, okay, I had this player ranked here, and maybe he didn't go that high on draft day, but in retrospect, as we look back, okay, he should have been that high. So I kind of look at it from that standpoint as opposed to the mock draft. But of course, yeah, you want to get that final mock draft right. This year will be tough because I think, Cam Ward 1. I do think Travis Hunter 2, Abdul Carter 3, and then it becomes a big crapshoot because there's a lot of differing opinions. This is a different draft class in the top 10. We're not going to have 10 true top 10 guys. So there's a wide ranging of opinions from different teams about how the next order should be.
Do you agree with what I think is fairly common thinking that if this were last year's draft, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders would probably be the 5th and 6th rated quarterbacks, and therefore they're going to be overdrafted this year simply because they're the best available quarterbacks, not because they really deserve to be 1 and 5 or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. When you look back at last year, none of these quarterbacks are going ahead of Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May 1, 2, 3. I think the debate becomes, okay, who would have been that 4th quarterback between Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and then the group that we have this year. And it was interesting. Cam Ward actually declared last year. He entered his name into the draft, and then largely due to NIL and transfer portal, he changed his mind, transfers to Miami, has this outstanding season. And I think when you look at Cam Ward, you're encouraged by the progress. He was a wing T quarterback in high school, goes to Incarnate Word, and gets better and better, goes to Washington State, gets better and better. And then his 5th year at Miami, he was at his best. And so you're encouraged by the ability to progress every year, get better. And you think, okay, he's 22 now. What's he going to look like at 25? Is he going to continue to improve? And I think that's what really you're banking on. And I think at the combine, it became pretty clear Cam Ward was going to be the first pick. It was more of a question, okay, will the Titans stick and pick? Or could we see a trade up to number 1? The Giants, we know how desperate they are for a quarterback. Would they be able to do it? And as closer we get to the draft, it becomes pretty clear the Titans are ready to stick and pick. And I think you understand why, because if you don't have an avenue to a quarterback, what are we doing, right? And so if the Titans don't take a chance on a guy like Cam Ward, then what is their next best option? And it's hard to come to a solution that you feel good about. So if you think Cam Ward can evolve into a top 14 type of quarterback in the league, I think you have to roll that dice and see what happens.
Is stick and pick yours, or is that something that's the parlance of the industry because it just rhymes? You could just say stay there, but you're enjoying saying stick and pick.
It just rolls off the tongue, right? I mean, it sounds
sure
good.
Is it yours though? Is
like
it yours? Like, do you have it copyrighted? Is that exclusive to the Beast?
I don't know that I definitely don't have it copyrighted. I'm probably sure I've heard it elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, now that you mentioned it, maybe I should check into that.
Is that hyphenated? I'm just curious. Stick and pick or no hyphens?
Yeah, probably 2 hyphens in there. Stick and pick. Yeah,
I think so. I think so.
Dane, is there a chance that the Titans don't stick and pick? Because we decided, 3 months ago that we were going to do a watch party for the NFL draft in Nashville because they had the number 1 pick. And it was a dicey decision because should they trade out, we'd just be in Nashville for absolutely no reason watching the NFL draft. So as we're getting closer, it looks like it was a safe decision, but is there any chance that they can be blown away with a package and we will just be sitting in Nashville to watch a team pick at 6 or something?
There are worse places to be for, to kind of watch the draft. But I would be surprised at this point. The Titans have not really hid their interest for Cam Ward. And with a first-year general manager, Mike Borgonzi, a second-year head coach, there's always a question mark where you're not entirely sure exactly which direction they want to go. But I just keep going back to, okay, if you're not going to draft Cam Ward at 1, what is your best avenue to a quarterback? Because Will Levis is going into the season right now. He is at the top of the depth chart, and Will Levis has not taken control of that job and said, okay, I am a long-term starting quarterback in the league. He hasn't been able to do it to this point. And so, again, if you believe Cam Ward can be a top 12 to 14 quarterback in the league, which several teams do, because if Cam Ward doesn't go 1, he would go 2 to the Browns. The Browns would more than happily take him at number 2. I think we have to look at quarterbacks as kind of like taking bets, right? Like it's such a hard position to evaluate. I don't care, who you are. It's just there's so much that goes into it mentally, physically. And so if you just have to kind of make a bet that, all right, we like this, this, and this. This is what translates. We're going to make a bet on that working and that fitting with our coaches and our personnel. And I think the Titans are ready to do that.
I was listening to you and on my buddy Nate Tice's podcast last week talking about all of the quarterbacks of the non-Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders tier, like the Milrose, the Tyler Shucks, the Jackson Darts. Which one do you think is the best bet, or does it just depend on who's drafting them?
Yeah, I think Jackson Dart to me is the most intriguing because he is probably has the most talent, but it's going to take some time. That Ole Miss offense really didn't get him ready for this next level. Can he get to the backside read? Can he make those full field progressions? So there's a little more projection with Jackson Dart, but he has the physical tools, the competitiveness, the leadership off the charts. So you like a lot of what Jackson Dart brings to the table. It's just the mental development is going to take time. So if I'm a team like the Browns, who really they need a quarterback pretty quickly, I don't know that Jackson Dart's going to be higher than maybe some of these other quarterbacks. Now, if I'm the Steelers and theoretically Aaron Rodgers could be here for the next year, or even the Giants where you have Russell Wilson starting for the 2025 season, then I think Jackson Dart becomes much more of a strong possibility. If I need someone to start right away, I think I'm leaning towards Tyler Shuck from Louisville, who is a unique player because he's a 7th-year senior. He's going to be a 26-year-old rookie, and you just don't see that a lot. But it's been injuries, and it hasn't been like multiple knee injuries. It's been a broken leg and a busted shoulder and things that I don't think are going to give teams big red flags moving forward. But for a guy that's that age, this past year at Louisville was the first time he played more than 8 games in a season in 7 years in college. And that's not ideal, but he has the size, the arm. He's a power thrower. He's a twitchy thrower. And he's a good athlete for being a 6'4", 220-pound quarterback. So teams really like Tyler Shuck. And I think both those guys, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck, teams in the top 35, top 40, there's a good chance we see them both come off the board.
If Abdul Carter did not have the foot injury, would he be consensus number 1?
No, I don't think so. I really don't think the foot injury has all that much to do with it. I think it just comes down to the Titans. Quarterbacks are just different, right? Quarterbacks. It's hard to rank quarterbacks with other positions because it's a weighted position. The impact level that it brings is just different. And then I think it comes down to, okay, who's the best non-quarterback? Is it Travis Hunter or is it Abdul Carter? And in my opinion, it's Travis Hunter. We have not seen a player like this, how unique he is, can play both sides. He's a dynamic athlete. I would love to play him full-time on defense and then mix in 25-ish plays a game and get him 8 to 10 touches on offense. I think that's the perfect way to use him. But there's a lot of teams that think he's an offensive player first, and then they'll try to figure out something on defense. And I think the Browns, sitting there at number 2, they need to get better on offense. Their offensive scoring was 32nd in the league last year. Third down conversions were 32nd in the league. They need a spark on offense. And if they don't believe in one of these quarterbacks, which I don't think they do at number 2 overall, Travis Hunter does make sense because of the spark he would bring to an offense that just needs any semblance of life.
Where do you think Shedeur Sanders goes? And do you think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback?
That's the big question. It's funny. I like Shedeur Sanders, but you're not allowed to like him. You have to love him or hate him for whatever reason. That's how it's become. And look, I think he can start in the league. It's just, can he truly be a difference maker, a guy that's going to elevate the offense around you, be someone that is going to help drag the team to the playoffs if that's what's needed? I think he needs a situation where everything is clicking around him to really make that happen. And it really comes down to, like, yeah, he's tough, he's smart, he's really poised, but the way he likes to play, I just don't know that he has the physical traits needed to do it. That, like, he wants to play like Jordan Love, where he's going in reverse in the pocket and moving around and throwing off balance, and he just doesn't have the size, the movement skills, the arm. He just doesn't have those type of high-end traits at the position to get away with that consistently at the NFL level. So if I had a chance to draft Shedeur Sanders at 25, 26, I think I would. That's where I would consider him, because I do think he can start in the league. I just think it's going to take a lot more around him for everything to work. But where is he going to land on draft night it's a fascinating question. I think if he does get past 3 with the Giants, the Saints at 9 are a really interesting spot for him. And if he gets past there, then we're talking about the Steelers, and then potentially maybe the Browns or the Giants at early second round, trading back into the first to get him. Right now, the over-under on quarterbacks in the first round is 2.5. And I think, you always lean towards taking the over on quarterbacks. It just, the Kenny Pickett year was an aberration. Usually we see more quarterbacks than not go in the first round. So I think I would take the over on that 2.5.
Regarding Shedeur Sanders, if you're going to try and play like Kyler Murray, you better have Kyler Murray's athleticism. If you're going to be doing the backwards in the pocket stuff, I want to speed this up because we've got a lot to get to, and we've got too many questions and not a lot of time left. So let's hit him with the pressurized music and see if I can get quick answers to quick questions here. The most overhyped player in the draft right now is blank.
The most overhyped player in the draft is, that's tough. It would have to be Shedeur Sanders, right? I mean, it's just, he's a good player, but to take him top 5 overall, I think is a stretch.
Somebody who's going to go higher in the draft than most mock drafts are predicting is blank.
Let's go with Jalen Walker, the pass rusher / linebacker from Georgia. A little bit of a hybrid, can do it all.
The player with the measurables that awed you the most was blank.
Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M pass rusher. Seeing him up close to the Senior Bowl, that burst. I mean, guys that are 6'4", 270 pounds, they shouldn't be able to move like him. He had a 40-inch vert. He is a freak, the freak of all freaks. 1.5 sacks last year, but he will be a top 20 pick because he's just different than everybody else.
How many sacks?
1.5.
What the hell? Like, what the hell? What do you mean 1.5? That's 1.5 more than Greg Cody.
Part of it's usage. Part of it's, he had a lot of pressures. He just didn't finish in the pocket. So there's something there. He is one of the wild cards of this draft because he is different. He's kind of like the Travon Walker of this draft, where maybe the tape doesn't always line up, but the traits are crazy. And we know NFL teams, they don't draft stats, they draft traits.
Great vert.
Spot that you'd like to see Tyler Warren land in.
Chicago at 10. I think it's an underrated spot. Pair him with Ben Johnson. He could be his Sam Laporta. They run a lot of 12 personnel, so Cole, with Kmet still there, it still works. Add another pass catcher to that offense. I think it makes a lot more sense than people think.
The possible team matching with possible player that excites you the most other than that one is blank.
I think Will Campbell to the Patriots. They've been kind of looking for that left tackle, and it's maybe not the sexiest position, talking about offensive linemen, but I want to help Drake May, because Drake May, what he did last year without an offensive line, without a ton of help around him, you give him that help. You add Stephon Diggs at receiver. All right, let's give him a blindside protector, and I think Will Campbell can do that.
True or false, you worry about someone when you ask about how excited they are and they mention a left tackle.
True. There's nothing wrong with that. Left tackles are instrumental to a team's success, so it matters.
The weakest draft since blank.
The Kenny Pickett draft, where we had one quarterback in the top 73 picks, and Travon Walker went number 1 overall. It's not a bad draft, but it's definitely relatively weaker than we've seen in the last 2-3 years.
Is this year finally a good year to accept that maybe more than one running back should go in the first round?
Yes, and more than one running back will go in the first round. Ashton Genty will be a top 10 pick. Wow. And then it's okay, where does Omarion Hampton go? 12 to the Cowboys. I have a hard time seeing him get past 20 with the Broncos, which would be a perfect fit for both Bo Nix and Sean Payton, but also the running back and what that could mean for the Broncos as they try to unseat the Chiefs in the AFC West.
A better example than you being a maximum football dork at Mount Union as a freshman than you minoring in football player evaluation is blank.
Huh.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I have a good answer for that one. Because you know what? I'm from Northeast Ohio, and the Browns came back in '99, and I was just like 12 years old looking at, okay, Tim Couch, Ricky Williams, like this is fascinating. It was like an instant thing. Scouting is what I need to do. And look, my dad's not a coach, like I don't have an uncle who's an owner. Like how else are you going to get into the league? That's what this draft guide's about, trying to create something. And it got me several interviews in the league. And I just happen to be geared or kind of torn to this media side, and I've really enjoyed it.
It's available today at theathletic.com. It's the definitive draft guide known as The Beast. I'm going to really put you on the spot here, make you speed it up with a name and just a sentence of evaluation on the following. You are an amateur barbecue pitmaster. I'm going to give you an assortment of meats. You give me the first player that comes to mind when I mention that meat. Texas brisket is hot and smoky. Who you got?
Let's go with Travis Hunter because talking about versatility. You can do so much with brisket. You could shred it. You could slice it. You could put it on mac and cheese. You can do so many things with it. So versatility. I'll go Travis Hunter.
Prime rib.
I mean that's the king, right? That's so who's going number 1 overall? Cam Ward. So I mean prime rib. That's at the top of the list, and Cam Ward's going to go first. So we'll go Cam.
Memphis ribs, slow and dry.
Let's go with Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan, who is going to be a top 7 pick. Nothing really sexy about him, but you know what? You don't walk away from drafting Mason Graham and think, oh, we didn't get better, or that was a bad pick. You're not going to think that way. Same way with ribs.
KC pulled pork, sweet and tangy.
Sweet and tangy. So let's go with Shamar Stewart, who I mentioned as being a toolsy, traitsy guy. It's easy to be enticed by the different ways he can move, but you know what? It's maybe the payoff isn't there.
Porterhouse steak.
Oh gosh, I mean Ashton Genty. I mean, you can make a case he's the best player in the draft. You can make a case Porterhouse steak is number 1 thing you want to order on the menu.
Tenderloin roast.
Oh man, let's go Abdul Carter. With a slab of beef like that, Abdul Carter, the way he can rush a passer, it works.
You're just picking names. I mean, he's good at it. He's great at this game.
You can't question the way he did that. What
I
we did was totally
question.
unfair to him.
He's just picking names out.
Yeah, okay, but what we did was not right or
stick
fair.
And pick.
Or stick and pick. Thank you for being on with us. Cody hasn't listened since you said stick and pick. Thank you, sir.
Anytime. Thank you, guys.
Je suis stressé pour les minutes de Formule 1. J'ai besoin d'énergie. Énergie.
Let's go, energy. Oh, energy.
Bonjour et bienvenue à Circuit Powercar pour le Grand Prix de France. Les températures élevées sur le circuit signifient que la gestion des pneus va être essentielle. Charles Leclerc, le pilote automobile monégasque, fait face à Max Verstappen pour la première place. Le pilote Ferrari doit gagner pour rester dans les championnats. Mais non! Quelle horreur! Une catastrophe! Sacré bleu! Charles Leclerc sort de la course! Encore de la malchance! Il est fini! Une honte! Max Verstappen prend une grosse avance. Lewis Hamilton, le pilote Mercedes, est 12e. Carlos Sainz, l'autre pilote Ferrari, a commencé à la 19e place, d'où sa pénalité pour le changement du moteur. Et les roues contre roues avec Sergio Perez, mais l'imbécile de chez Ferrari recommence. Max Verstappen a fini premier de la course. Carlos Sainz est le pilote toujours. Lando, l'enfant Norris, a terminé 7e. Lance Stroll a terminé avec un point. Félicitations, Mike Crack.
Huh?
Wow! Oh my God!
Holy shit! Holy
Merci,
shit.
merci.
Oh my God. Was there an imbecile in there? Did you say
Les
imbecile?
imbéciles des chefs Ferrari recommence.
That sounded so exciting. I have no idea what happened.
Les pauvres Charles Leclerc, les pauvres.
My God, that was incredible.
That was
I
really
am
good.
so
Merci,
jealous that
merci
you can do that.
Christophe, merci Guillermo.
Well, the music ran out, but I think you should, because we didn't have an F1 minute today, I think you should give people a Lord of the Rings minute. Yes, I think you should give people...
Spoiler alert or no spoiler
Dangerous
alert?
game, man.
Dangerous game because of what?
To us, you can spoil as much as you want. So I say go for as many spoilers as you like.
All right, I'll give a spoiler of what happened at the end of the last
Hold on.
episode.
Let me get you
Hold
music.
It was insane. Okay, so spoiler. Do not listen if you don't want to know what happened in the last episode of The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. So Galadriel and Halbrand, who everyone thinks might be Sauron, they go from Numenor back to Middle-earth, and they're in the Southlands. And the guy who's like the head elf of the Southlands, who's trying to help protect all the people who are getting invaded by the ORC army, they're trying to figure out how to get the orcs to go away, the ORC army, and to get free of them. And right now, a lot of people are calling it Before-Dor. We think they're in Mordor before it becomes Mordor, before Mount Doom erupts. Interesting, because there's been a mountain that they've shown a couple times in different scenes throughout the series, right? So we're like, okay, how are the people going to defeat the orcs? Because the orcs, the ORC army, they're badasses, and they have this guy who's a leader, and his name's Adar, which means father. And we're like, maybe he's Sauron. But he's trying to get this thing that looks like a sword, but it's actually like kind of a key, and it looks like it's in the shape of Mordor. So he's trying to get that, and this little kid Theo has it, and his mom Bronwyn is in charge of all these people. So they trap the orcs inside the Elven Tower, and then the orcs come to the town, the ones that survive, and it looks like the people beat the orcs, but then the orcs come back. There's more orcs, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Galadriel and Halbrand and the Numenorians charge in on their horses, and they save all the people, and it's like, holy shit. And so Galadriel finally finds Adar, and she's like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what your deal is. Are you Sauron? What's going on here? And he's like, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to be mysterious. And then Halbrand comes in, and Halbrand tries to kill him. And everyone's like, well, why would Halbrand kill him if he's Sauron? And this is a servant of Sauron. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. We're not sure yet. I kind of think he is. And then fast forward, the little sword thing that they had, it was wrapped up in like a burlap sack. And the little kid is about to throw it like into the Sundering Sea or whatever to get rid of it forever. He opens it. The sword's gone. It's a decoy. This old creepy guy stole it, took it back to the Elven Tower, which used to be where there was dark magic happening, shoved it in the ground, turned it. It created a chain reaction. All this water starts pouring in underground where the orcs have been tunneling, the ORC army. And Mount Doom erupts, and it covers the sky in ash.
He just won with Jeremy Taché.
Because Jeremy was an alleged journalist last night. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Jeremy, who is an up-and-comer in the broadcasting game and is someone who has now journalistic credentials around, literal credentials around the Heat and the Marlins. Yesterday he was hosting. And this is one of the great things, Stugotz, this time of year. We get it so infrequently around here in South Florida. But South Florida has always done this well. The rest of the country always makes fun of, you guys don't care about that sports that much. You're bandwagon people. All right. Many of us are. Not everyone is. The loyalists are super loyal. But Miami does the bandwagon better than anybody. Miami does. Everyone now show up for the party. And so you have, stunningly, a hockey arena in the Everglades, like surrounded by airboats and alligators, filled with people to do the wave, watching the game on television. And at the Heat, across the street from us last night, Jeremy Taché is watching the end of that game with a lot of people who are excited. And Stugotz, I'm getting a lot of this. Jimmy was out of bounds, and it ended up being a 3. That was a goaltend ref culture win. Okay, whatever. Tell it to the people who were yelling and screaming around Jeremy.
How about this? 1-1, we're coming home.
Okay, who's we?
Yeah, I took the Heat in 5. Anyone else?
He's right.
All right. The Knicks are watching this like everybody
2
else.
rounds ago.
It was a long time ago, understandably. Here's Jeremy Taché not being a journalist while covering, again, an arena filled with people, but no players or athletes were there.
You're catching us right now as the Miami
of the NBA Finals. You can see that this crowd here is hoisting babies into the air. This crowd is ready from the moment this game started, and it has continued here as the Miami Heat have just upset the Denver Nuggets. We've got fans going crazy. We're high-fiving. Everybody's ready for an unbelievable night right here in Miami. The Kaseya Center was ready for a great night from the jump, as this energy around the entire lower bowl was electric from the moment this game started until the moment it ended. As we pan out to the rest of the crowd, you can see the entire lower bowl going absolutely crazy to end this game. The Miami Heat have just won it as Jamal Murray's shot has not gone in. I cannot believe what I've witnessed around me. There were moments in the fourth quarter where I couldn't hear myself think. I don't even know if you can hear me on the microphone. What a night at the Kaseya Center as the Miami Heat take their first game, their first win in Denver, and I know that this crowd right here is ready for an unbelievable party Wednesday night, Game 3 here in the Heat's house. Guys, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
Oh my gosh, Jeremy Taché doing that on one tank of oxygen.
Not a single breath taken. He was like one of those free divers that go down for 20 minutes at the bottom of the ocean. It was a record. And if you're listening just by audio and not watching, what you didn't see in that noise is there were 11 actual babies tossed in the air. Just infants.
Seems
that were.
reckless.
It does. But hey, it's game 2.
Right.
Wait till game 7 of this thing.
Right.
11 babies, a fetus.
It's not going 7. I said 5. I mean,
that's right.
You did mention that.
Yeah.
The energy was actually insane. I don't remember any of that. I feel like I blacked out as that happened. It sounded like I was losing my voice. I wasn't losing my voice. I literally was just unhinged. I don't remember it. It was really amazing.
You blacked out. Excellent work by you, blacking out as a impartial observer of games.
Well, you can't be impartial if you're holding a microphone that says Heat TV.
My job
Right.
is sales
and
in that.
high-fiving
You're
people.
emceeing.
Yeah.
Emceeing is really sales.
I'm
Right.
there.
Yeah.
I'm there to make sure everybody's ready to be at games 3 and 4. I'm there to make sure that everybody is ready to be at the road rally. Bally Sports, the heart of the fan.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Would the Zeller minutes look the same if you replaced him with a newborn giraffe?
Or that newborn baby that was being hoisted into the air.
The giraffe would just be more distracting. I feel like we'd have more success.
No,
It'd be
Zeller's plenty distracting.
Porter
He's right
Jr.
now.
would be like, why is there a giraffe on the court?
No. Listen to me. Zeller is a strong human being. He is a big human being. And when he
Hey, Le Batard fans, it's your girl, Roz Goldenwood with Good Follow Show. And on this week's show, we talk about UConn, newly crowned champions, and what the future looks like for them after they won championship number 12, as well as other contenders coming up for next college season. Who could challenge them as they'll try to run it back? WNBA draft is around the corner, and Logan and I are revealing our top 5 picks in a mock draft, as well as some surprises we think might happen. And I've got an exclusive sit-down interview with LaChina Robinson, ESPN WNBA analyst and host, and we tape it live from Tampa, so it's got all the warm weather and vibes and stories coming right out of the Final Four. We drop our show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on DraftKings Network or YouTube or wherever it is that you get your podcasts, so make sure you tune in and check us out.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by Smirnoff. We do game days. Please drink responsibly. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York.
For the first time in too long, we are going to have Stugotz's weekend observations. He's got a lot of thoughts. As soon as a coach is fired in the NBA, Amin flumes in from wherever it is he is to give us some poignant analysis. Before we get to that, though, both of those things, Stugotz has a top 5 list of athlete names who connote biting in honor of the very famous Luis Suarez of Inter Miami. Do you have an OLI or do you just have a top 5?
I have 2 OLIs, Dan.
All right.
Yep, and then a top 5, and it's a beauty.
All right. Athlete names who connote biting.
Reggie Tongue.
I don't think Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is the tongue involved in biting?
Bite your tongue.
At Le Batard Show.
Yes.
Thank
Bite
you.
your tongue.
Next
John
up.
Maynard. The dentist.
Of course, West Indies cricketer.
Yep.
Well known.
Thank you, Greg.
Number 5.
Randy Moeller.
Number 4.
Sin Choo Choo.
Number 3.
Louis Lips.
Number 2.
Vic Fangio. Fangs.
Number 1.
Rick Pitino.
Yes, of course, a vampire, a well-known vampire, the most well-known vampire anywhere in sports. Before you go do Oddball with Izzy, give me all the best stuff that you have on Michael Malone so you can't use it on your own show.
Great strategy. Number 1, big FU goes out to the Denver Nuggets organization. This was supposed to be a nice, easy day for me. Instead, I have to do 3 different podcasts. Just because they can't hold their shit together.
What's the best stuff you have?
You know you can say no.
Don't you want news?
You would think
No.
that you would get excited by content, but
No.
okay.
Sometimes slow and dry. Remember, guys, let them cook.
No, this isn't content. This is mania, right? There's a mania that's infecting our league, and it's this idea that I'm doing my team a favor by firing the coach 3 or 4 or however many games before the end of the season. I'm doing my new head coach, the interim head coach, a favor by giving him the reins. Here, have this hot potato. And by the way, I'm showing respect to, in both the instances in the last couple of weeks, the best coach you've ever had in your blah, blah, blah life. I was going to cuss, but I didn't realize we're still live. So
Thank you for not.
yeah, no, I do it for you. But it's ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous. You're not putting anyone in a position to be successful when you do this, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is between Coach Malone and Coach Mike Brown, earlier this year, we've got 2 instances of guys who are getting fired from what I see as holding guys accountable. Men being fired for holding other grown men accountable. Like, he's mean to me. Huh? Like, what do you think this is? What do we think we're trying to do here? We're trying to win games, and sometimes asking pretty please is not an option. And so it's ridiculous that the organization would not back their coach in that situation. Now, Denver has other issues in that there was behind-the-scenes tension between the GM, Calvin Booth, and the head coach, Michael Malone. But they fired the GM, too. So what exactly did we solve
in your
here?
history watching the league, have you ever seen this or something that rivals this in terms of puzzling, universally received as puzzling because you're knocking out both your leaders with this as the timing?
No. I would say yes, Memphis, but these guys said, hold my beer, and they went up them. And so it's something that I don't know that I thought Memphis was kind of isolated. I'm worried now that there's a precedent now. Hey, if your coach says something that you don't like, just let him go. Doesn't matter what he's accomplished for your downtrodden organization.
I'm looking at this as the obvious result of what's happened the last 15 years, combined with the generational gulf of holding players accountable. No, we've got to do it differently because the 20-year-olds have the actual guaranteed money power here.
Dan, having actual guaranteed money power doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't mean anything unless you give it credence, right? The organization is what gives it credence when we talked about this before, not with Memphis. Who was it? I think it was Sacramento. But the idea that when LeBron James comes to Pat Riley and says, don't you ever get the itch. Like, that's a seminal moment. That's a seminal moment in organizational history where it is demonstrated at the highest level. We don't play that shit here.
Yeah, but look at what just happened to him and them.
But the difference is, Dan, is that you can do that and then set the standard and set the expectation, or you can listen to the whispers and the murmurs and the rumblings and say, oh, yeah, well, once you start to entertain, you have already started to erode any sort of authority that the coach might have. And I don't mean authority like, I'm your boss, do what I say. I mean authority like, hey, man, we have a plan. It's my job to come up with the plan. It's your job to execute the plan. If you execute the plan and the plan sucks, my bad. I'll take it. But if you don't ever get to executing the plan, then we'll never know.
Does this not feel to you in some way, as someone who really loves basketball and understands how the basketball leadership works, does it not feel to you like your way, your thinking of accountability is generationally behind now? That there has been a sea change here, that this is a symbol for, but the way that you think about these things, about how to govern people from a different generation who have a different relationship with work, perhaps, than Michael Malone does, this represents a sea change that leaves the Bill Belichick way, the Pat Riley way, the Michael Malone way, leaves it a little more behind than it was yesterday.
I'll say this. There's been a formula for success in our league for damn near 80 years. And it doesn't include we don't have to work that hard. All the successful ones, all the champions, all the great ones, they all bust their ass. They all bust their ass on the court. They all bust their ass watching film. They understood the plays. They understood their opponents. They were prepared. That's a constant. Like you could say, hey, Gen Z, they don't. The constant is the work. You look at the Celtics last year. You look at the Nuggets 2 years ago, the Warriors, et cetera, et cetera. The teams at the top, beyond the good luck of health, beyond obviously having talent, it's discipline and it's hard work. Nobody's skating here. And if you think you can skate to a championship and you're firing your coach because he's not letting your guys skate, then you're part of the problem.
They have championship expectations there. We did a cursory look. I think the best, most recent example is Ty Lue, midseason coaching change, went on to win the NBA championship for a team in the Cavs that had championship aspirations. Have you ever seen anything this late in the season actually work?
It's never happened before, first of all. We'll start. It's never been this late. Taylor Jenkins was already kind of the latest of a good coach, right? Now, Michael Malone is the latest of any coach, even a bad coach, right? So when you talk about Ty Lue, that's different. That was more like Adrian Griffin, where they could see clearly this isn't working. And we've given this guy
Blatt didn't have the pedigree.
He didn't have the pedigree. He didn't understand the language. You talk about, Dan, the language of generational gap. David Blatt didn't understand the NBA language. Like he did not know how to operate and how to interact with people.
It seems as though that was the case against Malone, though. He wasn't connecting with his guys.
No, it's. I'm talking about David Blatt didn't connect with anybody.
No, I understand. I understand.
It's the difference between I don't speak English at all, and I'm not saying that literally. I don't speak NBA basketball as a language versus these group of guys are starting to tune out. And by the way, when you talk about these group of guys, here's the other part of this. The tension between Calvin Booth and Michael Malone was that Michael Malone wanted vets, which is, by the way, how you win championships. And Calvin Booth says, no, play these young guys who make mistakes and don't watch film and aren't as committed. And that's a hard gulf to overcome as an organization.
Ron Jaworski. Jaws.
It's a good one.
That is a good one.
Better than lips.
Bite your lip.
Thank you, Amin. Oddball 4 days a week.
Yep.
DJ Shark.
You were impressed by yourself on that one.
That was a good one.
You surprised yourself.
Better than John Maynard, the dentist.
Time now for Stugotz's weekend observations.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations are brought to you by Miller Lite. Dan, in 20 years of doing this show with you, perhaps it's the only thing I've been consistent about the entire time. That this week is the best week on the sports calendar. Magnolia Lane, Rays Creek, Jim Nance, Hogan Bridge, Amen Corner, Butler Cabin, and of course, the Azaleas. The Azaleas. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, Masters Week is back. Exciting.
Yes.
Perhaps we'll talk about it.
More than just talking
Excited?
about Vijay Singh's withdrawal.
You want to talk about the par 3 today?
Oh, I love the par 3. Oh, do I love the par 3. I'll be glued. Speaking of back, hello. Stephen A. Smith on First Take debating, what does Ovechkin's record mean for LeBron's legacy? That's why he gets paid the big bucks. How did he weave those two together? He is a genius, that man. He really is. The Mariners have 2 pitchers in their starting rotation named Luis Castillo. You know what they say, Dan? If you have 2 Luis Castillos, you don't have one. The C in Luis Castillo stands for a couple of Castillos cutting it up.
Billy, how do you feel? You correctly pointed out yesterday that I should be saying it Los Angeles instead of Los Angeles.
You shouldn't. I'm just saying.
But how do you feel about how he says no? It's Luis. The way that you make it two syllables. The way that you make it Luis.
Yeah, I mean, Stugotz. His name is Louis Castle.
All right.
I mean, it seems like a guy you would like.
I have no idea who he is.
You don't know who Luis Castillo is?
The Marlins second baseman?
Oh, good Lord.
Marlins Hall of Famer.
He's been, well, not yet. He's been a good pitcher in the league for years.
Okay. Listen, I was just trying to make a Castillo joke. You don't, you had 2, you don't have 1. Couple of Castillos cutting it up.
Have you guys seen the thing about the Los Angeles Angels? So they're called the Los Angeles Angels.
It's redundant.
It's the Angels.
Yeah, it's stupid. Put it on the poll. Did you know that the Los Angeles Angels is the Angels?
The 2 best days of the NCAA tournament are the day it starts and the day Duke loses. Taylor. They're called the Duke Blue Devils because they were blue in the face from choking away a national title. Taylor. How is the answer to everything around here more David Sampson? I can promise you this. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is asking for more David Sampson. How'd we get here? Dan, I left for 5 weeks. I mean, Sampson dominated the airwaves here. Are they still airwaves? We're doing it. I don't know. How does that work?
Excellent questions, all of them.
The Sampson one, too?
All of them. Excellent questions.
Thank you.
How did we get here? All of it.
Walter Clayton Jr., senior guard play. To everybody comparing Walter Clayton Jr. to Steph Curry, do me a favor. Stop doing it. What are we doing? Why are we comparing him to Steph? He's not Steph Curry. No one is.
It's just size and step backs. That's all it is.
Whenever I bet on a team, nobody can make a free throw. It's the worst.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Juju, when you bet on a team, does it stop making its free throws?
Dan, do you know what we witnessed on Saturday? Todd Golden versus Bruce Pearl. A couple of Jews coaching it up. Amazing time for Jewish coaches. 3 of the final 4.
Wow. That's a trend.
John Shire. I had no idea. Things you think about on a gummy, on a walk to the Sphere, on the way to your 3rd consecutive Dead & Company show. Is Jimmy Garoppolo good, or is he just good looking?
That feels like you're thinking about that 4 years after everybody was thinking about it.
It is a question, though. If he didn't look the way he did, would he still be in the league?
I'm not certain.
Yeah, he's still good looking 4 years later.
Is it a question?
There have to be some ugly backups out there that we're just not thinking of.
Who was the guy with the long neck that was in the league for a while?
Glennon.
Yeah.
Dan thought he was going to be great.
He did.
He had the neck.
Look, what I said was
No,
that
you
when
were-
he
you were
was
high
at
on him.
North Carolina
You
State,
liked him. I
that
mean-
he was a first-round pick. That's what I said.
But you thought he was going to be good, right?
A first-round pick is what I said.
Houston would win a national championship every season if basketball was played without a basketball.
I agree with that.
Thank you. Duke was 79-0 under John Shire when leading by more than 10 points. You know what that means, Dan?
Something had to give.
They were Duke.
Yeah,
Right.
one
I love it.
70-year-old thumb
I'll
just
take
got
it.
lifted.
I will take it. I love that thumb.
Hell yeah.
He might not show it, but Coach K is definitely happy anytime John Shire loses a big game. He is. You agree? It seems like you agree.
Totally believe it.
Yeah.
I don't know if happiness is what comes to mind, but I'm sure that Coach K didn't want immediate championship winning as soon as he leaves.
You think he says to his wife, he's not me. He's good, but he's not me. He had to say it, right?
Coach S.
WFAN, debating for hours.
Why Coach S?
You know, Coach K, Coach S.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the elaboration.
No problem.
That's an all-timer right there.
Like, what are you doing?
I mean, he's striving to get that nickname. You know,
Right.
when you're called Coach
K comes
Letter,
before S, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's, you got it made.
That's the comment that you made.
He hasn't earned it yet.
So
that's
you
the
didn't.
point. If he wins a championship, he's Coach S.
Yeah.
You know, clearly. I mean, I
Right.
got to explain that.
Yes.
You know,
I think
he
you
fell
do.
short of that.
Right now, he's still John Shire.
He wasn't.
Right.
The
he
guy
wasn't-
that Coach K
yeah.
laughs at. Right.
He wasn't Coach K because his last name merely started with a K. He was Coach K because it was a lot easier to say than his last name.
Well, no, his last name
That's
does
the-
start with a K.
I
though.
understand
I
that,
mean,
but
it's debatable.
But it,
it became-
sounds like an S.
it
Maybe
became-
he should be Coach S.
Wow.
Wow, that is true.
Great point by Jess.
Okay.
I hadn't considered.
WFAN, debating for 4 hours whether or not Juan Soto is a needle mover. Good job, boys. That's what sports radio is all about. 20 shares. Roki Sasaki, crying after a bad first start for the Dodgers. Hey, Roki, there's no crying in baseball. Alex Ovechkin broke Wayne Gretzky's goal record with Gretzky in attendance. The great one. Alexander the Great. The comparisons between Ovechkin and Gretzky are ridiculous. Seriously. Gretzky was a far better player. Are people arguing that Ovechkin's the greatest goal scorer of all time because he has most goals?
Wait, you mean the best player of all time?
Or the best goal scorer? Because he's neither.
Well,
But he is the
Gretzky did it in fewer years, I believe.
they did it in the exact same number of games.
The
Oh,
exact
wow.
same number.
Excuse me,
1487.
So
Gretzky-
now take Gretzky's rings, put them in a box, and take Ovechkin's rings and put
Hold
them in a
up.
box and tell me who's better.
You're moving.
Gretzky just has 900 more assists.
Ovechkin had 2 work stoppages
I
and
wanna hear about
COVID to
it.
deal with as
I wanna
well.
hear about it.
I mean, no one's
You
arguing.
don't want to hear about 2 work stoppages and COVID?
I think his point is right, though. No one is arguing that Ovechkin's a better player than Gretzky.
No, that's not the argument. But
No,
in
the
terms of goal
argument is
scorer,
he's not the great one now. He's a great one. And there's another great one.
he's a better goal scorer.
Right, Stugotz?
There's one great one.
Well, what if there's 2?
And by the way, Gretzky still has more goals if you include the playoffs. 122 to 72 in the postseason.
Because he would go deeper into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right.
2 work stoppages and COVID.
I heard you. Rings?
I don't know how you argue, though, that Ovechkin's not a better goal scorer.
That was a wild sentence.
than
He's just like, you can argue he's a.
Gretzky just traveled to where Ovechkin was to make that acknowledgement. Like,
Well, he has to say that.
Right.
You can't say he's a better goal scorer just because he has more goals.
Correct.
in
You
the same
can't.
number of games.
Goal for your life.
Oof, you're right.
Who you taking?
Empty netter or
You know,
who we got in there?
Grant Fuhr.
Oof.
Goal for your life. We're all taking Gretzky. You take Ovechkin, you're dead.
His rookie season was delayed an entire year because of a work stoppage.
I heard you. If someone was about to beat my record, I would be as far away from the arena as possible. In fact, when John Toto broke my Clark University goals in a season record, I was halfway across the globe in Italy. The boot. I've never met Toto. I heard he's a good player. I did it in less games, I will tell you that.
That
Toto
matters.
did.
That
Yes,
matters.
Thank you. I'm the great one at Clark University.
He's not in Kansas anymore, that Toto, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, thank you. Every time I walk through customs, I feel like I'm about to be arrested. Every time, man. Nothing worse than walking through customs without anyone checking a suitcase and everyone greeting you with smiles and saying, "Good day, mate," realizing you could have put 20 packs of dog walkers in your suitcase. Dan, I could have taken 10 pounds of weed.
Put it on the poll.
And it's disappointing because then I'm in an alley, I'm talking to Kiwi, I'm making sure I don't get arrested. It's like, it's old school.
At Le Batard Show, put it on the poll. Do you feel like you're going to get arrested every time you go through customs if you're not a criminal?
I do. In honor of me going to Australia, top 5 athletes if they were named after something Australian. OLI. Desmond Brisbane. Crocodile Dundee Wade.
Did you just snort?
I did.
Kangaroo Hachimura. Number 5, Boomerang Esiason. Number 4, Brandon Bondi Beachy. Number 3, Rashid Kowalis. Number 2, Moises Kangaloo. And number 1, the Great Barrier, Sharif Abdur-Rahim.
Moises Kangaloo.
It's so good. Here come the Habs. Habs are tough. Moises Kangaloo is good, no?
Boomer Esiason's got to be number
Boomerang.
1, no? Or
I like
Boomerang,
Rashid
yeah.
Kowalis.
You know what the A in Australia stands for? Not air conditioning. They have AC issues there and ice issues. They don't have ice.
We have ice issues here.
In this office or United States?
Different kind of ice.
Oh. Dan, they have a community radio station on Bondi Beach. Anyone can walk in there and take the mic. So naturally, I did. Fired 2 rugby coaches, compared the careers of Patrick Rafter and Leighton Hewitt. 14 shares.
You dominated
10 minutes,
the airwaves as part of Operation Bloomin' Onion.
Yep. Next day, got a job offer from a radio station in Perth. The morning hop around with Kanga Stew. Told him I'd get back to him. Also, Dan, we own, me and you, 20% of the Australian Baseball League.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I cut
nice,
you in.
Nice, thank you.
You got it. It's not big in Australia. It's big in Asia. So that's the play. You're fronting all the capital. 10% for you, 10% for me. We good? I'm serious here. No, because the play is, Dan, there are many Asian players playing in the Australian Baseball League. So they get massive numbers. Those games stream in Asia, Japan, China, everywhere. They get massive numbers. No one cares in Australia, but in Asia they care.
So this was Operation Bloomin' Onion. This is why you were there?
Yes, yeah. And you're welcome. We'll cover it on the hop around. Kanga Stew. Perth. Perth is a funny name.
It was. It was a good. It was a good choice. It was a good choice.
Hey, parents, got news for you. If your son or daughter is studying on Bondi Beach, guess what they're not doing? Studying. They're partying their asses off.
You don't believe in studying abroad, do you?
No, I do not. It's a scam. I mean, they'll work at least 2 more years to pay for Emma's trip. Because Sydney was not enough. Studying abroad was not enough. She went to spring break in Japan. Jesus. She watched some Australian baseball there. Where was it? Bill Raftery is better at his job than anyone in our industry is at their job. How about that?
He's pretty good.
Do you agree, though? Top 5 people who are better at their jobs than everyone in our industry is at their job. OLI. Roy. Billy. Chris. Mike. Number 5. Right, Cody.
What happened to Jess?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. Jess might be in my top 5.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Jesus, man. Let me finish. Number 4, Jess.
I don't believe that's what that is. Let me see your number 4.
I'm not going to show you my number. It's my number 4.
Why
Get
don't
your own
you
number
believe
4.
it, Dan?
What do you mean?
Good ad lib.
Thank you. Number 3, Christopher Mad Dog Russo.
L. Duncan.
I tell you, no.
Of course, he replaced the woman.
Number 2, Jess.
They're going to leave me one at a time.
She was 4. You were supposed to say L. Duncan
I
there.
forgot about L. I had L at 4. Listen, I had to scribble some stuff out. We don't have ink here, so I mean,
we don't have ink.
It printed out. It was fuzzy. I can't really read the list. So L. Duncan is 4. Jess is 2.
Stugotz came in yesterday saying that he was wildly jealous of ESPN Radio's morning show because they had invented a game, pen or pencil.
Oh, my God.
Shedeur Sanders.
Yes.
Pen or pencil?
Well, Shedeur Sanders to the Giants. Pen or pencil. If you write it in pen, Dan, you can't erase it. With a pencil, you can erase it. So if you're doing it in pen, then it's happening. Pencil, you're not so sure. It's a good game. Evan Cohen.
What about whiteout?
You still making that?
I think.
All right.
What do I
Big
know?
year last year, whiteout.com.
Stugotz, number 1. I didn't finish the list. Jess was 2. Bill Raftery was number 1.
What happened to a top 5 list that
Who was
3? What happened to that list?
OLI, Roy,
Yeah,
Billy,
but Jess, you
Chris,
put
Mike,
Jess at 4
5, Greg
and
Cody,
2.
4, L. Duncan, 3, Christopher Mad Dog Russo, number 2, Jess, number 1, Bill Raftery. What do you want from me?
Just get mad at Taylor, Dan.
Taylor. Stugotz, book number 2, titled I Didn't Ask for Any of This, Collision Course. Watching people trying to get organized after a golf round is funny. Whenever a basketball game goes to overtime, I have to turn to the person next to me and say free basketball. My wife hates it. Why is she still married to me? I put her through hell. Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Did you guys catch last night? We have not talked about this, either one of these games, the Dallas Stars game or the Knicks-Celtics game, because the Celtics are rounding into form, and I believe
no one believes in them.
Anybody watching basketball knows that one of the best Knicks teams we've ever seen isn't quite good enough, even when healthy, to do the things necessary to topple OKC and Cleveland and Boston. And I don't believe, even though Cleveland's going to be the 1 seed, I don't believe that many people listening to this will believe that Cleveland can get past Boston until they've actually done so. But how many times have you seen in hockey a 3-goal lead evaporate in the last minute? In the last, I don't know. I don't
Never?
know. I don't know. I couldn't remember.
You'd be correct.
It's never happened before?
Never.
Never happened before where a 5-2 lead has disappeared in and how much time was left? Was it just more than 60 seconds?
The score bug that I saw was 5-2 with a minute left. And Dallas ended up losing that game 6-5.
That's crazy.
Imagine you had Dallas.
There are probably a lot of people that did. It looks more and more like we're going to get Dallas and Colorado in the first round there. Yeah, I've never seen that before. That's the first time that's happened. So, yeah, several 6-on-5 goals, goes to overtime. Vancouver wins a game. Win probability. This might have been the first ever 100% win probability that's been lost in sports history. This is insane.
You say 100% win probability, but I'm always noticing when a game is 61-3 or something with a minute left that the win probability will always be 99.9%
Yes.
because they don't actually want to give you the 100% because things like this.
They don't want to commit to it.
There's
Cover
just
their ass.
that should be put it up on the poll at Le Batard Show. If you're up 5-2 with a minute left in hockey, should your win probability be 100%?
There is something curious happening in hockey. There have been fewer power plays called this year, not by a little, by a lot, by an incredible amount. And the reasoning behind it is not that the players are playing any cleaner. It's that power plays have become such an advantage in this league. The teams have gotten so good with the man advantage. And a couple of the goals there came with a man advantage 6-on-5, which is different than a 5-on-4. But the power play has become such an advantage. Teams are just so good at it right now that the league is kind of legislating it on its own. We cannot call what was a penalty last year a penalty this year because it is almost a certain goal. So that comeback kind of speaks into how good these special teams have gotten on the offensive
anyone
end.
better than Edmonton was last year when they were they entered the playoffs at like a 42% clip of succeeding on power plays? Is there anyone this year that is mathematically, empirically better than that? And as you look for the answer on that question, and you mentioned a first-round matchup, how close are we in the West to getting Lakers-Warriors in the first round because of how things have to break here at the end as Denver is firing it? There is going to be a first-round team. I don't know if you guys are watching what the Clippers are doing. But I thought the Clippers were championship good last year if they'd been healthy, and I never expect them to be healthy. But if you see what's happening, not with Kawhi Leonard or James Harden, but with Zubac, who just had a perfect game of 25 and 10 where he made all of his field goals, didn't have a turnover, made all of his free throws. It was something that has rarely happened in the sport. They're playing a style of basketball that makes it that a dominant postman can actually matter in the league in a way that's a little bit unusual. And I don't know what is going to shake out on 4-5 in the first round in the West, but would you be excited or disappointed if it was Lakers-Warriors and one of them was suddenly eliminated, given how everybody is covering basketball, or so many people are covering this basketball this year, where they refuse to talk about the top 4 seeds unless it's the Lakers?
The Clippers have won 5 straight. It's incredible when you consider Paul George is no longer there. They won 8 of 10. I think Tyronn Lue is probably he has to be up there. Tyronn Lue in terms of top 3 or 4 coaches in the NBA. I would love to see the Lakers and the Warriors. I'd just like to see it later in the playoffs. But I'll take it. I'll take it anytime I can get it. That's going to be fun, right?
I think that people will be disappointed if you don't get the star power, the aged star power that you want deep in the playoffs. I think if I offer that to the average basketball fan and say, would you like to see Warriors Lakers in the first round, or would you like to see them play others and try to advance to a round that has more stakes, given what happened on Christmas Day, right? That the clinging to familiar makes it so basketball cannot compete with the NFL except when it's LeBron and Steph. And it happened the other night, right? It happened. The Laker games are still the ones that are doing giant numbers, even though it's been a little bit uneven with the Lakers. And I still don't really know how this is going to work with Luka, because I see an awful lot of 6 for 17s or 6 for 19s from him, and it's just not. It's not what you need from him. He's got to be the best. The best basketball player on your team can't be the oldest player in the league.
No, he can't. If you ask the NBA, if you asked Adam Silver, who do you want matched up in the Western Conference Finals? If you could have any 2 teams, he would tell you Lakers-Warriors, right? That's the answer.
That's the highest-rated TV series in this playoffs, if it happens.
Yes.
Potentially higher rated, I think, than an OKC Cleveland Finals.
Can you get me the stat of the day music here, please, and the gas bag of the week as well? Because I want to tie the stat of the day to something here that people aren't talking about that perhaps they should be.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
I don't think this stat has changed in the last couple of days because Oklahoma City was just playing against the Lakers, and this is a couple of days old, and I have not refreshed it. But the Oklahoma City Thunder against the East this year, 29-1. They've lost 1 time against the East, and it is a little bit strange to have a team doing this well in the league and have it be in the shadows. But what Oklahoma City has done in terms of architecture on team building. The Paul George Kawhi Leonard trade is going to go down as one of the greatest trades the other way that there's ever been, and the stockpiling of draft picks in a city where you can tie people down for a while by contract because of the economy of the sport puts them in a position with young players, because that team is super young. They behave young. They behave goofy and silly in a way that's not immature the way Ja Morant is immature, goofy and silly after games in a way that is childish and fun. Their style of play offensively and defensively is fun, and the team is personality fun, but we're not quite ready to give the league over to them yet.